All the reaction throughout the morning.
There are some glimmers of sunshine amongst the cloud today. Join me later to find out if you're likely to see any of them.
Well, it's just gone 6 o'clock. I'm Anne Diamond.
I'm Adam Cherry, and this is GB News Breakfast.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting stories about today. I mean, this story about the MP. Well, he was a minister, wasn't he?
He was Health Minister.
Gwynne,
Gwynne.
Who was in a WhatsApp group and said some very unsavoury things on the WhatsApp group.
Yeah.
But to a certain extent, do you expect privacy in a WhatsApp group?
It's interesting. Yeah, what do you think about that? Because on the one hand, I do think I reckon, what, 80 to 90% of the people watching, they might have said something somewhere on a WhatsApp group, but maybe that's a little bit high. But we could all get caught out by this to a certain extent.
You can, but there's no such thing as privacy, Adam. Sorry to try to buy in there. If there's 20 people on the WhatsApp group,
yes, exactly.
How can you possibly do that?
And if you're an MP and there are other MPs and councillors in there as well.
I worked with
somebody on that WhatsApp group leaked it to the Mail on Sunday.
Yeah.
And they are horrid things that are being said, really quite nasty things,
yeah.
Especially for an MP and a minister. I mean, what was he thinking?
Yeah. I had a colleague who fell foul of this maybe 10 years ago, and it was a comment he'd made on Facebook, and he said, "Yeah, but Facebook's private, you know, it's different." I said, "Mate, you've got 1,000 friends.
Yeah.
How can it possibly be private?"
1,000 of your closest friends.
Well, one of the things that happens when you're trained as a journalist is you learn about what they call essential law for journalists.
McNay.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a copy of it. I just
it is a Bible to journalists, because all young journalists are taught that almost first thing. And you know that the minute you say anything, really, to more than one person, and even maybe to one person, you have published that information. You've published it.
More so in the digital age.
Sorry?
More so in the digital age.
Yes, absolutely, completely. People think that when they put something on their Twitter account or whatever, that they're entitled, but that you should be checking it legally before you put it up there.
Of course, it's public. It's in the public domain, isn't it?
Yeah.
And he's not coming back now. That's it, I think.
Yeah, I don't see how he can. Well, he's apologised for what he said.
Yeah.
We'll go into it a bit later, but he's apologised for what he said, and he's been sacked. And he's been... his membership of the Labour Party has been suspended.
It has, yeah.
Have they removed the whip? Because that's the only thing I didn't know.
He still has the whip, so I'm just going to clarify that in a second, because it's a different process. You can be a member of the Labour Party and not have the Labour whip in Parliament, or vice versa. They are actually separate. But he has definitely had his membership of the Labour Party suspended. Should we just get into that?
Yeah, let's get into that, because the Prime Minister has sacked him, basically.
Yeah.
So he moved quickly over those offensive comments that he is reported to have made in that WhatsApp group. As
I said, he's also been suspended as a member of the Labour Party, and he has actually apologised since for what he called, quote, badly misjudged comments.
Now, all of this follows an exposé by the Mail on Sunday, in which he is reported to have made a litany of really horrible comments, some of them deeply offensive.
Yeah, some anti-Semitic, as well as saying he hoped a non-Labour voting pensioner would die before the next election. Yeah. Pretty grisly stuff, wasn't it?
It's also reported he attacked members within his own party, including making racist slights about the Labour MP Diane Abbott, Mother of the House, and sexist comments towards the Deputy Prime Minister, Angela Rayner. So it's really... He should have thought before he said anything, even if he thinks it. But actually, maybe you don't even want a minister who thinks those things. Anyway, in response, a government spokesperson has said, we better read this out, the Prime Minister is determined to uphold high standards of conduct in public office and lead a government in the service of working people. He will not hesitate to take action against any minister who fails to meet those standards, as he has in this case.
Well, let's get the thoughts of the former Mayor of Middlesbrough, Andy Preston. Andy, thank you for joining us live on GB News. I suppose the first question is, should he expect, or should Andrew Gwynne have expected a level of privacy here, or is everything you write as a Member of Parliament, a politician, in the public domain, and he's sort of got what was coming to him?
Morning, Adam. Morning, everyone. Hi.
Morning.
Categorically, Andrew Gwynne should not have expected a scintilla, a hint of privacy. When you put something on WhatsApp to a group, even if it's private with one friend, you have to assume that that might be disseminated in some way, often without ill intent. But once it gets 2 or 3 people beyond your initial correspondence, it can go anywhere. I mean, these things he said were genuinely horrible, weren't they?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think if I was trying to defend him, I think I would say that it was years ago, literally. Some of them, I think, go back to 2019. And I would say that actually he was joking, which I suspect he probably was. But it's a wake-up call to all of us. That he said some horrible things. It's cost him his job. I can't see how he comes back, but he's really damaged the government on this. I'll stop because I've given you a very long answer. But the government's very much damaged over this.
I think some people will, though, be wondering how far do we police people's jokes or just, offhand comments? Because, there's always been this joke, isn't there, that doctors, when they're in their own room together, surgeons and people, they're quite rude about their patients to people. It's sort of, a sort of gallows humour, isn't it? When does gallows humour... I mean, have we gone too far in wanting to police everything people say, even if it's just offhand comments?
Morning, Anne. It's really interesting that you talk about doctors and their private discussions. And sometimes they're not private, are they? They get caught out actually in a paperwork version of this where they slag off a patient or say really offensive things, and it ends up coming back, doesn't it? And people find out. So it's a reminder to all of us. I think that the problem for all of us, politicians, doctors, and members of the public, is that there aren't any set rules. So the boundaries are interpretable, and that's where people get caught out. I was going to mention earlier that for Labour, this is a big issue. Now, Keir Starmer at the moment seems quite distant to this, but this is one of a range of issues, as well as the economic issues we've got. There's a sense of pessimism out there. We've got Tulip Sadiq under investigation relating to corruption. We've got the Runcorn MP with the violence where he punched somebody. Louise Haigh resigned for fraud. And now we've got these really offensive, stupid comments that aren't funny and will cause a significant offence. These are mounting up. And I think what's interesting is they're adding to a sense of chaos just 8 months into a new government. So it's a very interesting political situation. But the short answer, Anne, to your question is that we should assume no privacy. I do think things sometimes go too far, and you can say something as a joke and it's taken out of context. But we need to be reminded of that and be super careful.
Andy, you talked about how we're 7 or 8 months into this government and sort of gave a précis there of what you think the last 7 months have been like. I mean, does the Prime Minister need another reset? I mean, this is the 4th high-profile resignation. Does he need to get the cabinet around the table again and say, "Look, guys, we're not quite pulling our weight enough here"?
That's a really good question. Perhaps that's what they were talking about at this apparently quite secret meeting late last week. I don't know. It's very difficult to turn it around. I think that because the public don't have trust in Keir Starmer or Rachel Reeves. They're the 2 people at the very top. If they seem to be really strong and they instill a sense of optimism about the future, this other stuff would be a distraction. But this is all that we have to go on. We don't really know what they're thinking, how they feel, and they're not instilling any optimism. So we're setting our belief in the government by these relatively small but horrible events that damage our faith in politicians. So I think this is a real blow for the government. It's another cut, and that saying of death by 1,000 cuts is certainly proving right.
Yes, thousands, and they just keep coming as well, don't they? Thank you so much, Andy. Lovely to talk to you, especially this early in the morning on a Sunday. Do appreciate it. Thank you. Already you're getting in touch saying he should resign. You can't have an MP wishing old people dead. He should be removed as an MP. But, of course, he can't be removed as an MP. That's only an election or a by-election that can do that.
Exactly, yeah. You need to trigger a runoff petition and then I think it's 10% of his own constituents expressing no confidence in him. The interesting thing, if it does go to a by-election, well, either by him being forced out or resigning, is Reform was second in that seat in the general election.
Ooh.
So they would be targeting that with everything they've got.
That's going to be a big one, isn't it? Where is the first by-election going to be, and how soon might it be, and then what happens? Yeah, you can't say it's boring at the moment. I think I've come across a lot of people who say it's depressing, all the news at the moment, but it's certainly not boring.
No, but that was the point of the Labour government, was it was going to be boring in the sense that you wouldn't have to read about it every day, all the scandals that we became accustomed to last time. It hasn't quite worked out that way.
No, it's the funny thing about politics is the scandals just keep coming, no matter who it is in power. Right, we'll move on. 11 minutes past 6. Let's have a look at some of the other stories now coming into the newsroom.
The parents of 2 girls killed in the Southport knife attack say they're looking for light in the darkness. Speaking to the Sunday Times, Elsie Sankum and BB King's families remembered their daughters as confident, happy and intelligent. They opened up about their children's funerals and the support of their communities in the months since the horrendous attack. Alice de Silva Aguirre also lost her life.
The barrister acting on behalf of the baby killer, Lucy Letby, has called on the government to halt the Thirlwell inquiry, as he claims it's operating on the belief she's guilty. Last week, a panel of 14 experts presented new evidence to explain their theory that no murders took place at the Countess of Chester Hospital. Letby has been convicted, though. She is a killer, and she's been convicted of 7 murders and the attempted murder of 7 others.
The family of released hostage Eli Sharabi say they're relieved he's free, but heartbroken at how frail he looks. His wife and 2 daughters were killed by Hamas militants during the October the 7th attack. Meanwhile, all 183 Palestinian prisoners due to be released in exchange have now been freed.
I think the terribly sad thing about his release as well is that it sounds as though he didn't know. Of course, he couldn't have known until someone told him. And who told him that the rest of his family were dead?
I think I'm right in saying that those Hamas terrorists there essentially forced him to say he was looking forward to seeing them.
I know.
Knowing they killed them.
Well, or did they know? I mean, that's the point. I mean, these people have been held by different groups, and maybe one didn't know what the other had been doing. But the idea that I mean, if you're kept captive like that, and he looked terribly pale and thin.
They all did. They all looked terrible.
It was the first time we've seen people just not looking as though they have been looked after in any way at all. Yeah, it's just such a terrible thing to think that what might have at least kept him going was the thought of being reunited with them.
Just awful.
And then what does he do? Gets into the Red Cross helicopter and somebody has to tell him. It's just awful. We'll learn more about that, I guess. OK, 13 minutes past 6. Let's check in on the weather now, where you are. Here's Jonathan Vautry.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, very good morning to you. This is your GB News weather update provided by the Met Office. There are some glimmers of sunshine around first thing today, but for many it is still rather cloudy, all due to the easterly wind that is setting itself back up, filtering in quite a lot of moisture from the North Sea, and that's providing quite extensive cloud cover, particularly across eastern areas where we will see outbreaks of rain and drizzle at times. Generally, though, if you're further towards the west, you've got a greater chance of seeing some sunshine today, particularly for northwestern Scotland. It's going to be another fine, lovely day here. Western areas of Wales, down towards Devon and Cornwall, the Scilly Isles should also see some sunshine at points today. But that easterly wind is going to continue to feed in that cloud, and so sunshine will become increasingly limited later on in the day, and we'll see some longer spells of rain arriving in southeastern England later on as well. Temperatures on the thermometer will be around 6 to 8 degrees Celsius, but again, we've got to factor in that easterly wind that is going to make it feel colder than these temperatures will show on the chart. Across northwestern Scotland, where we do hold on to the sunshine, certainly it will be a nice fine end to the day, but underneath the clear skies that hold on tonight, it is going to turn quite chilly. Again, there will be some frost around, maybe some freezing fog patches as well. And elsewhere, where temperatures do get close towards freezing, there could be some very localised icy stretches where surfaces remain wet and untreated. But for most of our towns and cities, temperatures will be around 3 to 4 degrees Celsius. Well, as we start off this new working week, then it is going to be a fairly dull, damp, dreary one, unfortunately. Again, a lot of extensive cloud cover right across the board, continuing to see some showers push their way in from the east. They'll be wintry over higher ground as well. It's always going to be western sides of things that will see the best of the sunshine. Again, northwestern Scotland probably seeing the best day out of everywhere. Temperatures really struggling though, 4 to 6 degrees Celsius. Again, we've got to factor in the strength of the wind, so it's probably going to feel closer towards freezing, and that is going to continue right throughout the forthcoming week. Bye-bye.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Well, still to come, President Trump says he has no plans to deport Prince Harry. Find out exactly what he said about that next. This is GB News with Adam and Anne.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Ironic article in The Guardian, Nick, caring about facts.
Yeah, this is Meta is ushering in a world without facts, says Nobel Peace Prize winner. And they just seem to give these Nobel Peace Prizes to anyone these days. So it's Maria Ressa.
Not working.
Zuckerberg came out, and it was very bold. He said a few things. We're going to use community notes instead of fact-checkers. Fact-checkers inverted commas, because it just means people pushing usually a specific viewpoint. Community notes seems to be a great system that X uses, so why not do that? I think that's great. He's going to reduce restrictions on topics like immigration and gender. Good, because I'm against censorship. He's going to push back on governments around the world that are going after American companies and pushing to censor more, which is great. He's also moving content moderation to Texas instead of California, which is banter. So now the cynical version is he just realises we've got a new regime, it's the MAGA era, and I want to be mates with Trump, who said that I should that if I interfere with the 2024 election, he should spend the rest of his life in prison. So he did mention he might be a bit scared of that. He was involved in that in Facebook suppressing the Hunter Biden laptop scandal, and I feel that he didn't like being a part of all that from watching.
And also the suppression of arguments about gender and, sex, what is biological sex and whatnot. You get banned for saying there are two sexes.
They're on the wrong side of this, and now he's correcting. But the weird thing is the people, of course, the people who don't like this, the lefties, this person, Ressa, is saying that this is a big problem. It's an extremely dangerous time. I've seen all this from the lefties. They just call it disinformation. They're worried about this because to them it's disinformation. To other people it's information.
Yeah, and also, I mean, I think we can all agree if people think they're getting their facts just directly from Facebook, then something's horribly wrong. But we know that. The community notes thing, I think, is quite good because that sort of first-hand experience people are putting down, aren't they?
Yeah. People have loads of different views come together, and it's an aggregate, so that's why it works.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. Maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
A very good morning to you, 19 minutes past 6. I don't know whether you get this very often wherever you go, but I'm getting more and more people saying, you know, Donald Trump, he really is somebody to admire because he goes for it. He makes a decision and he does things. I mean, even if some people feel they're outrageous, and even, frankly, if 50% of them don't work, he does actually sort of speak positively.
Yeah, it does. It does feel like the attitude towards him has changed quite a lot.
And
definitely since 2016.
Yeah, in exactly an hour's time, we're going to be going through a list of things that maybe, and please contribute, things that maybe we could be learning from him. Lessons to learn from Donald Trump. What would you say is something you think, why don't we do that?
Do get in touch on that.
Yeah,
I'll be really interested to see what people say about that. Because in the UK, I think the attitude towards him is still different to, obviously, over in the US. I think people are a little bit more sceptical here. Some slightly changing their view, but nonetheless, do get in touch, gbnews.com/your say on that.
What are the lessons we could learn from Donald Trump, in your view? Get in touch, and we'll be talking about that, particularly in exactly an hour's time. Right now, though, we're still talking about Donald Trump because he has now made it very clear that he is not going to deport Prince Harry. As he says, the Duke already has enough problems with his wife. She's horrible. Or she's terrible.
Called her terrible, that's right, yeah. Well, it comes after the Duke and Duchess of Sussex cheered on the UK team at the Invictus Games opening ceremony. And we're joined now by royal broadcaster Helena Chard. Helena, thank you for joining us. What did you make of the Duke and good morning. What did you make of the Duke and Duchess making that appearance yesterday?
Oh, well, goodness, it was an electric, I think, time actually in the stadium, BC Place Stadium. But and I'm sure they were feeling elated hearing Trump's announcement, which is quite funny. Got enough problems with his wife. She's terrible. So I think they had a great time. I mean, just to remember, it's a 9-day sporting event in Vancouver, Whistler. And actually, it is Harry's best work, I would say. Invictus, meaning undefeated in Latin. It was electric. As usual, Meghan sort of turned up fairly last minute, looking very loved up and doing a fabulous performance of unity. I think they've still got Ashley Hansen, who is their sort of PR person, who's guiding them, wanting them to look more united and doing more joint sort of appearances. So hopefully, well, for them, this has worked. We saw Meghan with her blue poms, sitting on the seat, having a good time. It was good fun, I think, for everybody. Just remembering what it's all about. It's a sort of, games. It's an international multi-sport event, and it is actually aimed at the wounded and injured and sick armed forces personnel and veterans. 500 competitors came together from 23 countries. And I tried to watch it actually on a live stream, but there was a lot of interference. But it just seemed like everyone was having a lovely time, and there was flying sort of whales, dolphins in the you could see. I think is that them arriving?
That's them arriving. Well, that's what I wanted to ask you about, particularly though, because in the light of what President Trump has said, he clearly likes the idea of Prince Harry, and he's not going to seek to deport him. But he clearly made it very clear that he didn't like Meghan, and so the two turn up, and it's great to see them together. And I quite agree with you. The games themselves are wonderful and quite an achievement for Harry. But there's no doubt they were incredibly loved up when they arrived. I don't know why we're seeing the inauguration there. But there's no doubt that their public display of affection was really for President Trump, wasn't it?
I think it quite possibly was, but as I said, I know that Ashley Hansen has advised them as well to be more together. I mean, obviously, what can we say? Meghan Markle isn't particularly liked, and I think it's self-induced. She comes over as quite disingenuous, and we've heard about the grief grifting. I mean, there's so many stories, and now, obviously, this has now followed them into the US. We've known about it from the UK, but I just feel that, she put on a great performance. But Prince Harry did really well, and I think, in a way, it's a plus sign for them, in that, going forward, hopefully Meghan's going to learn something from, keeping slightly back. But she did make a speech to begin with. I think it wasn't actually in the main arena, and was talking very much about family, and it was quite very much about them as a family, and then sort of introducing the Warriors. But I think lovely just to see the excitement of all the bands performing. I think that was really good fun. We had Chris Martin, who was giving a great performance. That was a sort of an introduction from Her Excellency, the Right Honourable Mary Simon, Nelly Furtado. As I said, Meghan and her pom-poms. And I think just to remember as well, Chris Martin, who's a great performer, he actually penned the Invictus Anthem in 2014 and did a sort of like performance.
OK, look, we'll leave it there for the moment, Helena. Thanks very much indeed for that. I think you're dead right. I mean, the excitement over the games is quite something. But the public display of affection...
Let's see what happens.
I mean, they weren't just holding hands. She grabbed his face and slogged. Yeah. I mean, there's no other word for it. And you don't usually see that.
Well, you heard Helena say it might be an exercise in PR more than anything else. They've got people advising them very closely, haven't they?
So cynics would say.
So cynics would say.
Yeah. OK. Are you that cynical about them? I think you may be. Ever such a lot of people already getting in touch saying, lessons we could learn from Donald Trump. Where do you start? And we're getting a list, so keep your thoughts coming in. Anyway, obviously, our poll of the day today, let's... think of this one. Should Prince Harry return to the UK? It's that simple. And I'm sure you'll have a view. Do you mean should he return with Meghan? Yeah. She's not going to come and live here. She's just not. So should he come back on his own? Would we forgive him? I don't know.
What about the kids?
I can't see him leaving his children behind. Yeah. But could he come back in any way? I don't know. But that's the bare start question. Should Prince Harry return to the UK? We'll bring you the live results throughout the day, so make sure you stay tuned. Final result will be announced a bit later on in Nana Akwia's show.
And, of course, for all our latest polls, news and how to vote, you just go to gbnews.com/poll.
Now, how about the Great British Giveaway? Do you fancy your chance? Because you could actually be one of 2 lucky winners in the current Great British Giveaway. We've got prize bundles to give away, £500 worth of shopping vouchers for your favourite store, the latest iPhone 16 and 10 grand in tax-free cash. Here's how to have a go.
We're doubling your chances to win in our latest Great British Giveaway, with 2 fabulous prize bundles up for grabs. There's 2 lots of a totally tax-free £10,000 in cash. You'll also receive a brand new iPhone 16, along with £500 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite store. And the best news is 2 lucky winners are going to win. For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB11 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 7th of March. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Yeah, good luck with that. And all your thoughts are coming in about lessons we could learn from Donald Trump. Angela says, are you kidding me? How about all of it? Since he's come to office, what a fantastic start. Starmer needs to take note. That's how you get growth.
You know what? I think that'll be a consensus on the topic. I'm interested to see if there's anyone who disagrees. We will come back to that later on in the show. But for now, we're going to go through all the latest sports news. So Aidan McGee is back with us. Aidan, what's going on?
Good to see you both.
Yes.
Well, look, one place to start, of course, and that's at Twickenham yesterday. A huge morale-boosting win for England over France, who are probably the favourites to win this tournament. 26-25 it finished. England left it so late. And who saw this result coming? Because I certainly did, and I said yesterday on Dawn Neeson's show that I predicted England. She pressed me for a prediction, by the way. I wasn't going around boasting this, that I knew anything. But she said, what do you think will happen? I said, and I was trying to be quite conservative and quite conciliatory towards England's chances, and I said, I think England will lose by 10 points.
We were talking, just before we went on there, are you going to mention this? And you've done it. Well,
I know. Well, you have to. Listen, I'll take credit. I'll take credit when you get a prediction right, but you've got to take the full.
What happened? I mean, what was the cause of it?
Look, in the first 29 minutes, there was no score, which was quite extraordinary for a rugby match at that level. There were loads of mistakes in the first half by France. They just couldn't get their game going. But England, when given the opportunities, were the complete opposite. They grasped the metal and really sort of pressed home their advantage. And it proves that they did have a performance in them. I mean, we do see this sporadically. They did beat Ireland in the autumn internationals, having lost to the Southern Hemisphere trio of Australia, South Africa, and New Zealand. There was flashes of it in the World Cup as well, under Steve Borthwick 18 months ago. But the record recently has been pretty wretched. And yesterday, everything just seemed to come together. And Mauro Itoje, the captain, the newly installed captain, only his second match in the role, he said afterwards, "Imagine what we could be." So I do believe with the youth of the players, something there going forward. And goodness me, Steve Borthwick did. We'll hear from Steve Borthwick in a moment, actually. But Steve Borthwick really, really desperately needed that victory, because I was beginning to question where his direction was going. I mean, I wasn't the only one. Matt Dawson was saying it beforehand, but Matt Dawson was one of the guys who, 2003 World Cup winner, who said that who saw that coming. So I wasn't the only one who predicted doom for England. But look, and also the tournament is wide open now, because Scotland could do Ireland a favour today at Murrayfield at 3 o'clock. You never know. Ireland still have to go to France on March the 8th. Go to Paris, so that'll be extremely tough, because France aren't over here and aren't their interest in this event isn't completely out. And so, I mean, I think we can hear from Steve Borthwick now, if possible. Let's see what his reflections were on yesterday's win over France.
The players just have worked consistently to improve, and today we managed to score that try at the end and push the extra pass at the end, and they did that really well. Mauro led the team exceptionally well, so I'm really pleased for the players to get the win. Everybody wants that tangible reward as a mark that there is progress being made. We've been believers there's progress been going on all the time, and I'm exceptionally happy for our supporters who've been brilliant. I thought the atmosphere at Allianz today was exceptional.
And he uses the word progress quite advisedly, and because how many times have I said in the last couple of weeks that they just cannot seem to go the distance. They have had winning positions in most of their matches. They're not getting thrashed, but they just don't seem to be able to carry it on for the full 80 minutes. Yesterday, look, the lead changed hands several times in the last 10 minutes, and it looked as if, for all the world, as if finally it was going to be another gallant defeat. And then just when if they were losing, over Elliot Daly went for the try, and then Finn Smith kept his nerve for the conversion, and suddenly the tables were turned. England did on France what seemingly every other nation seems to be doing on England in the last year or so. So congratulations to them. It was long overdue. Yeah, exactly. A word on Wales as well. Wales were beaten by Italy 22-15 in Rome. That's their 14th consecutive defeat. They do have the next two matches at home, but Warren Gatland, the coach, increasingly embattled, and he's a man of extreme pedigree as well. But he said, look, there's no doubt it's challenging. You do question yourself in terms of being able to turn things around. So I'm not sure that bodes well for the future of the French coach going forward.
How did some of those matches go yesterday?
Yesterday.
I'm going to be interested in Bournemouth. How did they do?
They won 2-0.
Oh, yes!
They went to Everton. I don't know if you remember, a few months ago, they went to Everton and they were 2-0 down with 10 minutes to go, and they turned it around, this extraordinary comeback. Well, they went there yesterday. They didn't repeat the trick in terms of the comeback, but they did win with 2 first-half goals. They got the job much more straightforwardly yesterday, and that will be the last FA Cup tie at Goodison Park as well, because Everton moved to Bramley Moor Dock in the summer. The VAR thing came up again yesterday because Brighton's winner against Chelsea, I mean, it's quite a big reasonable upset, that, because Chelsea were out of the cup at a relatively early stage, but it was achieved, the winning goal with a handball by Tariq Lamptey. It was in the build-up which led to Brighton's goal. Now, I suppose he would say this, but the Brighton coach said, look, you know, we've seen a few controversies with VAR, but who wants to take the emotion out of football? We're quite enjoying it. Oh, yeah. A bit without the VAR. It's become too technical. And yesterday, Man City were given the fright of their life in the East End of London. They conceded a goal in the first half to a goal. Yeah, it was from the halfway line by Leighton Orient. They were losing, but it was given as a Stefan Ortega own goal. And then they turned it around second half, and Pep Guardiola joked afterwards that Kevin De Bruyne, who came off the bench and scored the winner, was the man who saved his job. I think he's got a bit of credit in the bank to be worrying about his job, but nonetheless, City got through. And I mentioned for Derek Chisora as well in the boxing, because it was his final fight in the UK. Supposedly, I've learned over the years not to trust boxers at their word. He's 41 years old. As soon as you need to put another payday, I'm sure he'll be pulling the gloves back on. But it's his last fight in the UK, supposedly, at the Carp Arena last night in Manchester, and he beat Otto Wallin on a unanimous decision. And he's the guy who's very friendly with Nigel Farage. I'm not even sure if Farage was there last night. He could have been. I'll have to check.
I don't think he was. I saw him post I think he was in Clacton, actually, but he posted a message celebrating and everything, so... But Aidan, thank you very much.
Jolly good. Do stay with us. In a couple of moments, we'll be going through the papers with Andy Jones and Susan Holder.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Co weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
So as we sit in Captain Tom's room, how has this whole experience left you in terms of financially and also mentally?
Thank you for asking the question, because the reality is that this has been devastating on a personal level, emotionally, financially. To have a reputation that you build up over decades and it can be demolished so quickly, that's exactly what's happened.
Welcome back. It's very nearly 20 to 7. Let's take a look now at some of the newspaper front pages. So let's start with the Mail on Sunday. And it reports that the Health Minister, Andrew Gwynne, has been sacked by Sir Keir Starmer after making racist and sexist comments on a WhatsApp group.
Yeah, there's a similar front page for the Sunday Telegraph, which says he was sacked for saying a pensioner should die.
The Sunday Times, though, has a sit-down interview with the families of two of the little girls killed in the Southport attack. Makes desperate reading.
Yeah, and the Sunday Mirror also pays tribute to the little girls with the line, "They are our angels."
Right, and then the Express. The senior Conservatives would like to see an election pact between Kemi Badenoch and Nigel Farage. That's according to the Express.
Yeah, well, I mean, they always say that's never going to happen, both sides, don't they? But then
yeah,
if the
but
right is split...
politicians always say that until it does.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Long way to go until the general election in 2029, or anything can happen, couldn't it? Right, anyway...
Andy Jones and Susan Hodder have joined us. And a very good morning to you.
Hello, good morning.
Welcome.
Right, Andy, let's get stuck right in then. The Mail on Sunday's exclusive, which Keir Starmer reacted to fast and this is the sacking of Andrew Gwynne.
Yes, absolutely. This is Andrew Gwynne, who's been an MP with Labour for around 20 years now, certainly old enough and more experienced enough to know better.
Yeah.
There's definitely an argument about people saying things in WhatsApp groups and should they be private or not private, but it does seem that this was a fairly relentless stream of bile and rage that was coming from Gwynne. The comments about one of his constituents messaged in saying, I didn't vote for you, but just to say I'm having these problems with my bins, etc. Andrew Gwynne then spoke in this WhatsApp group with other political figures saying, you know, you're probably not going to be around next time I'm re-elected anyway, so I don't need to bother. He's made racist remarks about Diane Abbott, sexist remarks that I can't even say about Angela Rayner, anti-Semitic comments about a Jewish speaker that was going to speak, saying that he might be a Mossad agent or words to that effect and this kind of thing. This wasn't just... it was in his private life. This is a very public official, very experienced. And the point I would make is, I'm sure we have all said things on messages and WhatsApp that we would not like to be public, but it does seem that whoever has outed this person, and I don't necessarily congratulate the person that, you know, revealing secrets here, but it does seem that people in this group were fed up of him saying these completely offensive, outrageous and inappropriate things. Yeah. And it might be that he'd already had a warning. It might be, look, you know, mate, look, you've got to, look, you know, there's things that you might say in the pub and there's things that you might say or that you shouldn't say at all, or you shouldn't say in a message group.
Because some of these messages go back years, don't they? And to your point, Andy, you're right. This guy was not new to the game, really.
No.
He's an experienced MP, and the point is, you should have known better.
Yeah, but sometimes when you're not new to the game, you've become rather arrogant in your feeling that you can say what the heck you like.
Yeah, and I mean, and the trouble is, we can't even hint too much at some of the things that were said. They're that bad, and it's so outrageous that we would not say it. And you know, you could say, oh well, everyone makes jokes, and we all say things off air. You know, I don't say those things on WhatsApp groups. I've never said anything like that, and I'm a journalist who's worked. You know, I grew up in the 1980s newsrooms where a lot of things were kind of said and typewriters were thrown around, and there was a gallows humour, and you would kind of say the odd thing, but you didn't wish people dead, and you didn't say completely lewd things about somebody who was your colleague. You don't say that, and especially if you're an MP, you should be held to higher account.
And we haven't seen the whole conversations with these things, but very often with the remarks you see the sort of reply, first question, etc. And these remarks seem to just completely out the ether. This wasn't sort of a conversation in the pub where lots of people had lots of drinks. These were things almost completely out of left field where he suddenly sent some rage and bile about it.
And it does remind you of the furore that came about with Gordon Brown. Was it 2010 when he called that woman? What a bigoted woman she was, because she just challenged him and he didn't like it and it got caught on camera. And that was bad, and he had to apologise for that and have a real plan, because it was a really ridiculous thing for him to say, and a ridiculous attitude to take. This is that much worse.
That wasn't him after a hard day's polling, you know, a bit tired, caught off guard, said something on a hot mic. This is sort of repeated messages in his private life for
several years.
About constituents and colleagues.
They're MPs, and that's the point. They should know better. And if we have to accept that sometimes they don't know better and they let things slip, maybe the Speaker of the House or somebody should headmasterly actually sit them down at the beginning of their term and say, no, your guys are MPs. You've got constituents. You aren't rude about them. You're not racist, and don't join a WhatsApp group unless you're going to absolutely understand that you're publishing material.
Basic stuff, you'd think, wouldn't it?
But I think everyone needs that lesson nowadays, though. I think school children should be taught, if you put something on Facebook, if you say something on X or whatever, it's publishing. And again, as journalists, we know there are things you just cannot say either on broadcast or in print, because it's, you know, you should be held to account for that. But everybody now does that and thinks they can say and do what they want.
And you just can't.
And also, they think it's freedom of speech. And actually, that isn't what freedom of speech is.
OK, look, we can leave it there very, very briefly. Just have a look at the European weather destinations, and then we'll be back with you as soon as pos. Yes, we are. Well, whatever. We're going to take a quick break. Are we? There are...
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
You may well be thinking of escaping the cloudy skies of the UK and heading to the Mediterranean, though it is rather mixed out there at the moment. There are some heavy showers and thunderstorms across parts of Malta and Sicily, though recent snowfall across the Alps should hopefully help with some skiing conditions. Perhaps the most settled conditions across parts of southern Iberia, Portugal and Spain, though there is some showery rain pushing into parts of Madeira as well. Generally, it is going to be the west that holds on to the most settled conditions during this week as well.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
People living with obesity are people, and they deserve the right for treatment and care as much as anyone else. What we need to understand is that obesity is a chronic condition, or a disease, as some people call it. It's not a choice. And this is the bit that people really struggle with, is that people think this is a lifestyle choice and people have done this to themselves. What we now know is the science and the evidence shows us that this isn't a choice. People have genetic predispositions for living with obesity. What we need to do is be a bit more compassionate and caring to people that live with obesity and support them to make healthier choices, not actually just discriminate and tell them that they're doing something wrong when, you know, if I had asthma, for instance, you wouldn't be saying the same thing to me there. But then it's exactly the same.
Usually, if you're going for an operation of some form or other, there'll be often there is a criteria. So my mother, she had a knee operation. They wanted to make sure her blood pressure was right and all these things. This is, I mean, to hear somebody say that obesity isn't a choice just because you've got genetic predisposition to it, it's just exactly why people seem to be legitimizing being overweight. Ozempic has proved that people are overweight because they eat too much. Because Ozempic tells you to stop eating, it makes you think that you've eaten and makes you feel full, so you don't eat. You may be predisposed to anything, but you also have a large percentage of responsibility to make sure that doesn't happen. So absolutely, it is in the patient's best interests, because if you're overweight, it'll take you longer to heal. You're more likely to have complications, the same if you smoke, and also the outcomes are usually better. So for a smoker, if you quit, say 4 weeks before surgery, you're 25%, your risk is lower of respiratory complications. So this is literally, of course it's discriminatory, because you have to decide, you have to prioritise the people that are likely to survive the operations.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. I mean, maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is the nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Well, let's continue looking through the papers. We've got Andy Jones and Susan Holder with us. And next to look at, Susan, is the interview with the Sunday Times, in the Sunday Times, with the parents of 2 of the little girls who were killed in Southport.
Yes, so the parents of Elsie and BB have spoken. The little girl, Alice, it was the other girl mentioned. I just want to say, first of all, that they don't mention in their interview the name of the killer, and I think that's completely right. And we really need to kind of focus and concentrate on what they're trying to get across, which is that they're trying to find light in the darkness, is what they say, and they want us to know about their little girls, and they want us to know what they were like. And they would tell us that Elsie was enthusiastic and caring, and she was a fashion designer wanted to be a fashion designer by day and a cheerleader by night. It sounds like a great kind of job description, actually. Yeah, that would have been great, wouldn't it? And BB was a natural performer who loved to act out musicals and do impressions, and always included other children in her games. And I just think it's so right of them to kind of tell us that, and that's what we should kind of know about their...
Well, they've got to work very hard, haven't they, at thinking of their lives and not their deaths.
Correct. Yeah. That's right. And having said that, it just accentuates the loss even more. It actually makes it more real for all of us as to who these little girls were and who these little girls could have been and now will not be. They also, quite interestingly, talk about the fact that they thought that the judge went into too much detail about the injuries in his kind of summing up, and you know, which again, it's interesting to hear that from the parents' point of view as to whether they just don't think that was necessary at that point, and there was too much concentration kind of on that at that point. When he was summing up.
To hear that in a sentencing hearing, can you imagine?
I can't imagine. And
I mean, I think legally a judge has to give reasons, because then it has to go on the record. But I can imagine how awful. Well, you can't imagine how awful.
No, you can't. They do praise, though, the work of the police liaison officers and all the kind of support they got in Southport and from wider communities as well, which is really interesting. But how they can sit down and have these conversations now, it's just beyond kind of imagining, really.
Yeah, there's so many moving. Obviously, with it being looking at the digital version, there's so many moving little videos of these girls. There's a wonderful video of Elsie cartwheeling around and having a wonderful time playing with her sewing machine, which is her pride and joy. BB loved doing impressions and making silly accents. And you can imagine this wonderful, joyful child holding court in the living room and making everybody laugh. And that's all they wanted to do when they went to that dance studio, to laugh and have a nice time. And we hear from the parents that the horror of going to pick them up and all these little children coming out, some of them covered in blood, and then their children not being there. I think that as a journalist and on these shows, we often forget that the appalling, the human cost that's never going to go away. You know, we can turn the page and talk about other stories, and this family's been left with something that's beyond nightmarish realities.
But as you both say, focusing on their life rather than
absolutely.
Their death.
I think it's really important that they've not. There's a lot of stories of this nature today, and I think it's important that these girls.
That's all you can do.
And also there's multiple heroes in this study, and we talked about the police liaison officers as well, but the guy Joel that jumped out of the car and tried to deal with the attacker. He talks about running into this scene of absolute horror, seeing blood everywhere, trying to help these children, and then being confronted with this monster in this hoodie and a knife at the top of the stairs.
Yeah, I think that's in The Sun on Sunday. It is, and they talk. Yeah, it's here. They talk about it extensively.
And he says the horror will live with him forever. And of course, I mean, nobody involved will ever forget. But he was directly involved on the front line. How many of us would rush towards danger instead of running away? But he did. He rushed towards danger and tried to help. So good on him too.
Yeah.
Okay,
very brave.
In this case, we will move on. I mean, it sounds horrible too, but that's our job, I suppose. Andy, to politics. And The Observer is talking about Reform UK bearing down on Labour.
It's a running theme in that we've had on the show multiple times. Reform making ground, hand over fist, now neck and neck with Labour. There was all the excitement that they'd surpassed the Conservatives. Now they're surpassing Labour, at least in the opinion polls, which is, can obviously change with the wind. And they're talking about reform making ground, particularly because of its stance on immigration. I think that obviously we talk about the huge numbers coming in. We talk about unchecked migration, illegal migration, the billions that it costs every year managing these sort of problems. I think the other thing is that Reform seems to embrace doing things for Britain. I mean, the other thing that the Observer doesn't talk about, it's all about immigration. All it seems Labour have talked about this week is reparations, Chagos Islands, Gaza. And I don't diminish the importance of affairs abroad, but Reform are talking about Britain.
Get your own house in order.
When British people go to bed at night, they lie at the ceiling worrying about taxes, pension, crime, antisocial behaviour, school places, health. Labour, everything seems to be just about foreign policy. It's not about what's going on in Britain.
OK, but now there we are going to have to leave it until we see you again next hour. Just to tell you, in a couple of moments, we'll be meeting some very brave puppies who have survived the meat trade. I think we can have a look at little Felicity.
Despite the morning rain, it'll be a nice, warm, cosy day ahead. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, very good morning to you. This is your GB News weather update provided by the Met Office. There are some glimmers of sunshine around first thing today, but for many it is still rather cloudy, all due to the easterly wind that is setting itself back up, filtering in quite a lot of moisture from the North Sea, and that's providing quite extensive cloud cover, particularly across eastern areas where we will see outbreaks of rain and drizzle at times. Generally, though, if you're further towards the west, you've got a greater chance of seeing some sunshine today, particularly for northwestern Scotland. It's going to be another fine, lovely day here. Western areas of Wales, down towards Devon and Cornwall, the Scilly Isles should also see some sunshine at points today. But that easterly wind is going to continue to feed in that cloud, and so sunshine will become increasingly limited later on in the day, and we'll see some longer spells of rain arriving into southeastern England later on as well. Temperatures on the thermometer will be around 6 to 8 degrees Celsius, but again we've got to factor in that easterly wind that is going to make it feel colder than these temperatures will show on the chart. Across northwestern Scotland, where we do hold on to the sunshine, certainly it will be a nice fine end to the day, but underneath the clear skies that hold on tonight, it is going to turn quite chilly. Again, there will be some frost around, maybe some freezing fog patches as well. And elsewhere, where temperatures do get close towards freezing, there could be some very localised icy stretches where surfaces remain wet and untreated. But for most of our towns and cities, temperatures will be around 3 to 4 degrees Celsius. As we start off this new working week, then, it is going to be a fairly dull, damp, dreary one, unfortunately. Again, a lot of extensive cloud cover right across the board, continuing to see some showers push their way in from the east. They'll be wintry over higher ground as well. It's always going to be western sides of things that will see the best of the sunshine. Again, northwestern Scotland probably seeing the best day out of everywhere. Temperatures really struggling though, 4 to 6 degrees Celsius. Again, we've got to factor in the strength of the wind, so it's probably going to feel closer towards freezing, and that is going to continue right throughout the forthcoming week. Bye-bye.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Don't miss your chance to be one of 2 big winners in our latest Great British giveaway, as we have 2 prize bundles that have to be won. First, you'll win a totally tax-free £10,000 in cash to spend however you like. You'll also receive the very latest iPhone 16, and we'll send you on a shopping spree with £500 to spend in your favourite store. For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB11 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 7th of March. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking,
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
down to earth,
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
and most importantly, honest,
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date. Or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning
from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Good morning. A Labour minister is sacked for alleged offensive comments.
Andrew Gwynne, the MP for Gorton Denton, caught out wishing death on a non-Labour voter.
As well as mocking Jewish names and female MPs.
So 7 months into the government and the scandals just keep coming, don't they? When are Labour going to learn?
May they rest in peace, a heart-breaking tribute to the little girls who lost their lives in the Southport attack as their families speak out.
The Duke and Duchess of Sussex prove they're as loved up as ever at the Invictus Games opening ceremony.
Captain Tom's daughter, Hannah Ingram Moore, sits down with Nana Akua in an exclusive interview, which we'll preview.
There's a name that was picked up because it was too salacious not to, I think. A swim spa. Google it. That's the brand name. It's great. They're great little pools, but it's basically a hot tub at one end.
And hold your pets tight. Today we investigate the true horrors of the dog meat trade and meet, there they are, some of the pups who have survived the unimaginable. That is little Felicity. Hello, Felicity.
And what would Sunday be without a bit of fun? It's National Pizza Day, and we are going to celebrate in the only way you can.
Yeah, I fancy a slice of that. Anyway, they left it late until the last possible moment, but Elliot Daly's dramatic late try sealed a famous Six Nations win for England over France at Twickenham. We'll have all the reaction throughout the morning, and we'll hear about an FA Cup scare for Manchester City in the East End of London.
There are some glimmers of sunshine amongst the cloud today. Join me later to find out if you're likely to see any of them.
Well, it's just gone 7 o'clock already. I'm Anne Diamond.
I'm Adam Cherry, and this is GB News Breakfast. Aidan, you're going to be helping us with that, saying hello to the pups over there.
Yeah, I am.
I am.
I don't have a dog. I never really have had one, not since we were kids, just because I do think it's such a commitment.
Yeah.
I do love them. I do. When I go walking, I do notice all different breeds and start comparing them. I kind of noticed them more over the last couple of years than prior to that. But we were as a cat family.
Oh, really? No, dogs all the way. Absolutely love dogs.
What did you have as kids, then?
Always dogs.
Was it?
Yeah. And cats, actually, when now I come to think of it. But my son has got a dog very like Felicity. I think they're the same breed. And it's huge. And he said, can I bring the puppy for Christmas? And I said, yeah, imagining some little bundle of fur. And it was enormous. It's like a Shetland pony.
Took the whole house, you see.
Like a Shetland pony.
I love big dogs.
That's it. My son says, what's the point of a small dog? Big dogs are wonderful. But
I want a dog big enough that you can put a saddle on it and ride it around the garden. That's the dog you
That's what my nieces and nephew do with their Alsatian,
Really?
Yeah, it is. It is.
I know,
It gets fun out of
we're
it.
a nation of dog lovers, and we are going to be talking about the appalling foreign dog meat trade and talking to some of those puppies, whether big or small, who have managed to escape. So it's a scandal and it's awful, but a lot of people, I know a lot of dog lovers, are deliberately taking in dogs that have been rescued.
So my brother bought his German Shepherd probably about 3 years ago. It was quite costly as well. I didn't realise how much they actually cost, but he set aside almost 2 years as a project for training it. You know, and he really got lots of enjoyment out of it, and it's so obedient.
I think is brilliant. There is actually nothing more wonderful than seeing a well-trained
Yes,
dog.
and there's so much information around that you can do it properly now, isn't there?
Yeah, and there are a lot of people who will help you as well.
Yes.
But yes, they are a huge commitment, aren't they? OK, shall we move on to the politics of the day? The Prime Minister has sacked one of his health ministers, Andrew Gwynne, over offensive comments that he's reported to have made in a WhatsApp group.
Yeah, he's also been suspended as a member of the Labour Party and has since apologised for what he calls misjudged comments.
And, of course, all this follows an expose by the Mail on Sunday, in which he is reported to have made a litany of offensive comments within that WhatsApp group.
Yeah, that included anti-Semitic remarks, as well as saying he hoped a non-Labour voting pensioner would die before the next election. It's unbelievable.
Yes, and it's also alleged that he attacked members of his own party, including making really horrible racist slurs towards Labour MP Diane Abbott, who is, after all, the mother of the House now, and sexist comments about Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner.
Well, in response, a government spokesperson has said that the Prime Minister is determined to uphold high standards of conduct in public office and lead a government in the service of working people. He will not hesitate to take action against any minister who fails to meet these standards, as he has in this case. Well, let's get the thoughts of former Immigration Minister Kevin Foster, who joins us in the studio. Kevin, thank you for joining us. Prime Minister acted pretty swiftly on this case, didn't he? But damage is done, isn't it? This is the fourth big resignation in, 7 months?
Yeah, well, what's happening seems to be we have our monthly ministerial scandal, and Andrew Gwynne seems to have provided this month's. And I think most people who've served on the Conservative, Lib Dem, SNP, or literally any other bench other than Labour over the last 20 years in the House of Commons will be actually thinking it couldn't have happened to a nicer chap this morning, because this was one of their constant attack dogs, always having a go. If there was a party political point to be scored, Andrew Gwynne was there scoring it all the way through the last 15 to 20 years. And, you know, Boris Johnson once called him a big girl's blouse. It turns out he actually should have called him a nasty piece of work.
Yes, and that's what seems to have come through. So the next question is, what on earth was he thinking? How can you be an MP and a minister, you know, you've got to that level and you're not thinking about what you're saying?
Yeah,
and actually, it's even unforgivable that he's thinking it.
Well, you know, if this was like, we can all have, and I've had it myself, we can all have one tweet or one comment that you've thought in a particular way that isn't the way others take it.
This is a pattern, right?
This was sustained over years. You know, the Diane Abbott comments were back in 2019. He was on this even very, very recently, having a go. And I think, actually, for the Labour Party, this isn't over, because there's now councillors, and we understand at least one other Labour MP who was on this group, who sat there for years listening to all this. I think there's now going to be some questions about what they did and what they thought.
Well, it is interesting, isn't it? Because these WhatsApps appeared in the Mail on Sunday. The question is, who leaked them? Someone got fed up, didn't they, and sent it over to Glenn Owen at the Mail on Sunday. And now here we are.
Well, someone clearly finally decided to call time on Mr Gwynne's hypocrisy. And this was someone who, a couple of years back, was in the House of Commons saying that Labour members believe misogyny should be a crime, and it was, why wasn't the government making it a crime, whilst he was making these sort of comments in a WhatsApp group. Total hypocrite.
Why does it seem to happen more and more within a WhatsApp group? What's the etiquette? Oh, do MPs even understand the etiquette of WhatsApping?
Well, I think a lot of MPs, certainly Conservative MPs, learned that our WhatsApp group, where we had, you know, all Conservative MPs on a WhatsApp group, some of us used to joke that actually was the best place to put our press release on, because you could guarantee it would get to the national media that day. So, you know, you do have to understand. But the fact that, as I say, this is so sustained, that's what's remarkable here, is for years he's been on there making rude, derogatory, anti-Semitic comments, playing down Labour's anti-Semitism issues, and all the time he's in the House of Commons attacking virtually anyone who wears a rosette other than red.
Kevin, thank you for joining us. We're going to chat to you again at 8 o'clock, but that was Kevin Foster, the former Immigration Minister.
Yeah, 7 minutes past 7. Let's turn to President Trump. Because love him or loathe him, and I know lots of people say you shouldn't always introduce Donald Trump by saying love him or loathe him, or whether you like his politics or not. But anyway, President Trump has wasted no time in getting straight to work, signing a swathe of executive orders.
Our team has printed off a full... This is how many there are. You can't quite... I mean, it's a whole...
It's a book.
It's a whole booklet. He signed more in his first 10 days than in any other president in recent memory, and there's the evidence.
He's hit the ground running, hasn't he, since he took office 19 days ago. He's already terminated diversity programmes, pardoned January 6 rioters, imposed tariffs on Canada and China, and announced billions in AI investment. And he's even sort of talked about launching to Mars.
Yes, put a man on Mars, the Stars and Stripes on Mars. Interesting. So, is it time that Sir Keir Starmer took a lesson out of the Trump playbook?
And we've been asking you this so far this morning, and everybody's got in touch with various ideas. Most of you think the one thing, if nothing else, we can learn from Trump is to actually get stuff done and not just talk.
Yeah.
We need Trump in the UK to put a stop to all this gender nonsense, says Ian. We haven't changed our opinions about about President Trump, and we haven't changed our minds at all. He's a total breath of fresh air, says Christabel. Well, one woman who knows all about what the president is up to, maybe she does, is US political commentator Jennifer Ewing. Good morning, Jennifer.
Hi, how are you? Thanks for having me.
This is fascinating, isn't it? So many people in this country are beginning to say, OK, let's look at what President Trump is doing. He's decisive. He goes straight for the action. What can we learn from him? What would you say we should be learning from him?
Yeah, it's interesting. And as somebody who's lived in the UK for 20 years and watched very closely the politics over here, I would think that probably the number one thing is getting back to the revolution of common sense, which is what Trump is calling a lot of his policies. And then number two, ending much of the waste, fraud, and abuse that goes on behind the government scenes, which is what, of course, Elon Musk and the Doge team is doing. So I think those are two very big things. The other thing is most of what's going on, while the speed at which it's taking place is surprising many, his policies are exactly what he ran on. So, you know, you'll hear him say over and over again, promises made, promises kept. The two biggest issues people voted on, as we knew, are securing the southern and northern border of the United States, and then, of course, fixing the economy, which ties right into, you know, the fastest tariff war in history, which took place last Monday with Canada and Mexico, and of course was over within several hours. You know, that was about the border. And then a lot of the Doge and the executive orders, things that are going on, are about waste, fraud, and abuse. So I do think the UK could take some lessons. Of course, listening to their own people and what they want. I mean, it's not an exact comp. You know, some of the issues are similar, but I think the important thing to do is that leaders need to listen to the people. There does need to be a more populist movement over here, whether it's left or right. But I feel like people in the UK don't think there's anybody out there in the current government listening to them.
It's interesting. Michael has just been in touch, says, lessons to learn from Trump: stop giving money to international organisations who hate you and want to do you harm. Unfortunately, that will never happen with Keir Starmer, who thinks it's great to bend the knee to every dodgy international court or body. And there's no doubt that this feeling of that Trump's can-do attitude and putting his country first seems to be coming up time and again from people. That's something they think we should be learning from him.
Absolutely. And again, these are not ideas that President Trump pulled out of a hat. He listened to people for the 4 years he was not in office. People were constantly telling him this border is out of control. There's a humanitarian crisis going on down there with migrant children, crime, all sorts of other things. Same thing with the over-regulation of whether it's our energy sector, whether it's our banking sector, whether it's new industries like crypto and AI. These are all really important things to get the country growing again. So, I think the people in charge of any country should be economic populists, should be economic nationalists, and listening to the people that put them in power.
And there's something about his common sense. I mean, I know some people won't call it common sense. Other people will absolutely embrace it as common sense. So for the fact that a president had to say, men are men and women are women, and those are the two genders we're going with. And then to sign the executive order stopping all the DEI transgender rulings, particularly in sport. And as he did it, to surround himself with female athletes who have been begging for this for years. I mean, he showed, didn't he, that he's a president who is listening to at least some of his people.
Well, you know what? You're right. And that is the most remarkable thing. We'd hear constantly that Trump is a misogynist or Trump doesn't like women. And yet, with regards to Title IX, which is fairness in sports for women, which was many, many years ago in college campuses, all he's doing is saying, hey, I'm sticking up for women and girls who have fought really hard, and some of these, you know, great athletes who have sacrificed a lot, so they do not have to compete against men or boys. That's common sense, you know? If somebody told us 10 years ago we'd be having this discussion to defend it, it would be crazy. So I've often wondered in this issue over the last few years, where are the women's organizations other than J.K. Rowling and Riley Gaines in my country and a few others? Like, where are the people sticking up for young girls in sports?
That image was just extraordinary, seeing him surrounded not just by athletes, but young girls and women as well, as you say.
I'll add Sharon Davies in there as well, our Olympic swimmer, who has been very outspoken about it, but received an awful lot of hate mail because of it.
Jennifer,
I mean, that's just crazy. Early in the morning, I forgot her name. I apologise.
Whilst we've got you here, Jennifer, I just wanted to ask, do you think the reason he was able to go through and make all these executive orders, so many at such speed, is because he was much better prepared for office this time? Of course, he's already been president once, so it sort of goes without saying, but he has a more loyal team. He sort of had a better expectation of winning, and so he was able to hit the ground running in a much more effective way than the first time round.
You're exactly right. And I think he'll be the first person to tell you he did not expect to win back in 2016. It came as a surprise to him. He took a lot of advice from Washington insiders on, pick this person for your cabinet or pick that person for your advisor. And he got it wrong. You know, as you'll recall, there was a lot of turnover. So he is a different man. He's learned a lot. And he's put in people who are maybe not these Washington elites, but people who are at the top of their class, who really have been successful, whether it be in business or the private sector or in the military or in law. So this is really exciting, and it's a whole new team. And yes, he's far better prepared.
Just so this doesn't end on the wrong note, though, just like a puff for President Trump. Yeah. I mean, was it really necessary for him to say what he did yesterday about former President Biden, to call him an old man with failing, failing problems, and then to withdraw from President Biden any security briefing? I mean, was that necessary?
To remove the security briefing, which he also did to Anthony Blinken and Tish James and Alvin Bragg, all people who were part of the political prosecution against him, which many of which have fizzled and died. I don't have a problem with that. Now, with regards to speaking in a less presidential way about a former president, no, of course that's not necessary. And that's always been Trump's Achilles heel, is that he will say unsavory things. He has gotten better, but he's not a fully changed man. But no, I don't think that was necessary at all. But the security clearance, pulling those, have no problem with that.
Jennifer, I think we're going to leave it there, but thank you very much for joining us. That was Jennifer Ewing.
Thanks
really appreciate your time.
Thank you. Yeah, fascinating subject.
It is. I also would have said if we had a little bit more time to talk about the January 6th pardons, because I think some of those were very uncomfortable, say the least. Yeah, I don't think that was a smart move at all. But there we go.
OK, right, here's to something really controversial. Should Prince Harry return to the UK? That's the subject of our poll of the day today, so give us your opinion. Should Prince Harry return to the UK? We'll bring you the live results throughout the day, and the final result will be announced later in Nana A Quiz Show.
And, of course, for all our latest polls, news and how to vote, you just go to gbnews.com/poll. OK, let's have a look at some of the other news stories coming into the newsroom this morning. And the parents of those two little girls killed in... We were showing the three of them there, but two of the parents have given interviews today, say they're looking for light in the darkness. Speaking to the Sunday Times, Elsie and Bibi's families remembered their daughters as confident and happy and intelligent, and they opened up in heartbreaking terms, really, about their children's funerals and the support of their communities in the months since that horrendous attack. And the barrister acting on behalf of baby killer Lucy Letby has called on the government to halt the Thirlwell inquiry, as he claims it's operating on the belief she is guilty. Last week, a panel of 14 experts presented new evidence to explain their theory that no murders took place at the Countess of Chester Hospital. And Letby has been convicted of 7 murders and the attempted murder of 7 others.
The family of the released Israeli hostage, Eli Sharabi, says they're relieved he's free, but absolutely heartbroken at how frail he looked. His wife and 2 daughters were killed by Hamas militants during the October 7th attack. Meanwhile, all 183 Palestinian prisoners due to be released in exchange have now been freed. Shall we zoom straight on to our Great British Giveaway?
Yeah, why not? Because we've got 2 amazing prize bundles to give away, which both contain £500 worth of shopping vouchers for your favourite store, got brand new iPhone 16 and a whopping £10,000 in tax-free cash. Not bad. Here's all the details you need.
Don't miss your chance to be one of 2 big winners in our latest Great British Giveaway, as we have 2 prize bundles that have to be won. First, you'll win a totally tax-free £10,000 in cash to spend however you like. You'll also receive the very latest iPhone 16, and we'll send you on a shopping spree with £500 to spend in your favourite store. For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB11 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 7th of March. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck!
Well, still to come, we'll be joined by a couple of furry friends who were rescued from being sold at a meat market. There we go, let's take a look. There we go, that's Felicity, very well behaved there, getting ready for her big TV debut. Brilliant.
But right now, let's catch up with the weather.
A chilly start will give way to a lovely, warm afternoon. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, very good morning to you. This is your GB News weather update provided by the Met Office. There are some glimmers of sunshine around first thing today, but for many it is still rather cloudy, all due to the easterly wind that is setting itself back up, filtering in quite a lot of moisture from the North Sea, and that's providing quite extensive cloud cover, particularly across eastern areas where we will see outbreaks of rain and drizzle at times. Generally, though, if you're further towards the west, you've got a greater chance of seeing some sunshine today, particularly for northwestern Scotland. It's going to be another fine, lovely day here. Western areas of Wales, down towards Devon and Cornwall, the Scilly Isles should also see some sunshine at points today. But that easterly wind is going to continue to feed in that cloud, and so sunshine will become increasingly limited later on in the day, and we'll see some longer spells of rain arriving into southeastern England later on as well. Temperatures on the thermometer will be around 6 to 8 degrees Celsius, but again we've got to factor in that easterly wind that is going to make it feel colder than these temperatures will show on the chart. Across northwestern Scotland, where we do hold on to the sunshine, certainly it will be a nice fine end to the day, but underneath the clear skies that hold on tonight, it is going to turn quite chilly. Again, there will be some frost around, maybe some freezing fog patches as well. And elsewhere, where temperatures do get close towards freezing, there could be some very localised icy stretches where surfaces remain wet and untreated. But for most of our towns and cities, temperatures will be around 3 to 4 degrees Celsius. As we start off this new working week, then, it is going to be a fairly dull, damp, dreary one, unfortunately. Again, a lot of extensive cloud cover right across the board, continuing to see some showers push their way in from the east. They'll be wintry over higher grounds as well. It's always going to be western sides of things that will see the best of the sunshine. Again, northwestern Scotland probably seeing the best day out of everywhere. Temperatures really struggling though, 4 to 6 degrees Celsius. Again, we've got to factor in the strength of the wind, so it's probably going to feel closer towards freezing, and that is going to continue right throughout the forthcoming week. Bye-bye.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there short and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
So as we sit in Captain Tom's room, how has this whole experience left you in terms of financially and also mentally?
Thank you for asking the question, because the reality is that this has been devastating on a personal level, emotionally, financially. To have a reputation that you build up over decades and it can be demolished so quickly, that's exactly what's happened.
And of course, that interview with Captain Tom's daughter will be later on at 5 o'clock. Nana will be coming in a bit later on our programme here right now to talk about it at about 9:15ish. Yeah, something like that. Now, welcome back. You're watching and listening to Breakfast with Anne, me, and Adam Cherry, who's not here with me at the moment because he's over there. It's all about dogs, and I'm terribly allergic to dogs, so I've left it to Adam and Aidan to have a look at these wonderful dogs and tell us their story.
Yes, so here we are. You might be able to see, we're going to cut down and show the chaps who have joined us on the screen in a moment. But this is Nikki Swannell and Shauna Rhodes, who are volunteers. Good morning to you both, by the way. So these guys are volunteers for No to Dog Me, which aims to rescue pups from being sold at the meat markets. Nikki is running a marathon, although we've interrupted your marathon training today, haven't we? I do apologise.
Yes.
You're not too upset about that?
I'm dealing with that.
Doing that alongside her daughter to help raise awareness about the true horrors of the trade. So thank you both for joining us, and thank you for bringing along these chaps. Look at these. Look, so who have we got here?
Rupert.
This is Rupert. This one's Felicity.
Yeah.
We met Felicity earlier, didn't we?
Yeah,
we did, yeah.
Felicity's been on. This one's Josette. And that one's Angel.
They're being very well behaved. So
yes.
They've been here for a couple of minutes.
Are they all around the same age?
Yeah, so Rupert's 3, Felicity's probably around 7 or 8, Josette's 3, and Angel's coming up to 7.
Yeah. Right. So just tell us a little bit about the meat trade and what you've done for these dogs and others.
Right, OK, so the dogs are rescued from the meat market. Yeah. Rupert was taken by his owner, who didn't want him anymore. He took him to the meat market to be sold for meat. Felicity were rescued from a slaughterhouse. She was strung up by a tail and they was going to eat her. Yeah. And Josette was from a horrific meat market where when we got there was dogs already weren't as fortunate as Josette.
Yeah, yeah.
So how widespread is this problem then, because it's not something we would obviously know about. I have heard it mentioned a few times in the media in recent years, but it's not massive talk about it.
Yeah, it's quite bad, very bad. We go to Yulin, where they have a big festival every year, but it happens. They've got dog meat restaurants in China. It's happening all year round, but once a year they have, at the summer solstice, they have a massive market where dogs are slaughtered. But no to dog meat. Julia and the team, they go in and they are on the ground in Yulin saving dogs.
Just, what about the level of support you guys are receiving? Is it growing as more people get aware? This is still a problem?
Yeah, so that's one of the issues that we are faced with. Because it's so horrific, people don't want to hear about it. We struggle to get our message out because people, the news outlets and things like that, it's distressing, it's upsetting. Nobody wants to hear something happening like that to dogs and cats. So we do struggle to get the message out, but slowly, the more people that are getting involved and sharing our posts, and for us running the marathons, we're hoping to raise as much awareness as we possibly can, along with money, because the two go hand in hand.
Of course, Just tell us a little bit about who we've got here. So their personalities, what are they like?
So Felicity's...
That's what we want to know.
Felicity's in charge. She tells everyone where to stand. Rupert, when she barks, Rupert listens. Rupert's a cheeky chappy. Josette's a new girl. So she came over in July last year. She was brought over. So she's just finding her feet. And, well, Angel's just having sleep.
Angel's gone to sleep. Angel's had enough.
Nikki, you mentioned finding their feet. I mean, what about that period of adaptation? Because they've come from extreme sort of traumatic backgrounds and then they become domestic animals. I mean, how does that transition happen?
You'd probably be surprised. So we picked Rupert up in, believe it or not, Rupert came to live with us in June this year.
Right.
And we went to Paris and got him. Hence why I'm running the Paris. One of the marathons is the Paris Marathon, because that's where the dogs land. It took him a couple of days, wasn't you, say?
I think
is that it? I thought it would take longer than that, actually.
He never messed in the house. No, he never messed in the house. It was so good.
Yeah.
And Josette's only been here since end of July.
She's gone camera shy.
And she's gone camera shy,
I just want some now.
Yeah. But we've got one. So we usually get the dogs adopted, but we have brought one dog over. Her owner fell through. Honey, she's in foster care. See, we struggle in why we're running the marathons is we're trying to raise money for fire pits. So we have these pellet fires. And we set ourselves a target. We called it the Winter Fundraiser. And we set ourselves a target to raise so much money because all our shelter got destroyed in the floods last year. And we had to basically open the cages so that the dogs would survive in that.
Struggles with quite extreme weather year on year. So it's a case of kind of having to rebuild as much as possible year on year and kind of just adapt to it as best as possible.
Do any of the dogs have, because obviously, it's, as you said, such a horrific trade.
Yes.
Do any of the dogs have injuries or any sort of
trauma?
Exactly.
Well, funny you should say that. When we rescued Felicity, she was actually hung up by a tail. And to release her, they chopped her down by a tail. So Felicity only has a stump of a tail, whereas you can see Josette and Angel and Rupert have long tails. Felicity doesn't. And some of the injuries are horrific.
But they're so trusting of people in spite of what they've been through.
And very well behaved. Rupert just needs to sneeze a little bit, but he's doing well.
Do you want to talk to us about the process of getting them from China to here? Because that sounds quite painstaking.
So all of the dogs fly through to Paris, and then we are part of the team that kind of bring them over to the UK and get them in homes. It's not always in the UK as well. There's adopters kind of throughout Europe. But the main route is through Paris and then driving them over. So we've been able to go to the airport, and obviously it was amazing to see Rupert arrive in Paris from China and be there to kind of like open the crate and stuff. So it was really nice to see that journey from kind of start to finish, and then to see them go to such loving homes as well. It's really rewarding, and we've had like little catch-ups with some of the dogs that we've that are settled in the UK now. and to just see how kind of well adjusted they are to their new homes.
So you can follow their journey and to make sure they're doing okay.
It's really important that we do follow the journey as well, because obviously we want to hear their success stories, and obviously everything that happened with COVID as well. It was quite difficult to get dogs out of China, and it only started, was it 2023 was our first flight?
We were able to get some more out.
So the adoption process is kind of, we're trying to encourage it a little bit more and make some progress with that now, because it slowed down so much during that time.
Absolutely. We'll make up for the lost time.
We were quite surprised, weren't we, when we asked you what they eat? The diet isn't anywhere near as hefty as we thought, given their size.
Rupert's just
I mentioned food.
Just to show how big it is.
It's like, oh, did somebody say snacks?
but not too much then?
No, their diets are not anything that you'd expect. I mean, people probably do overfeed them.
I thought they'd eat you out of house and home.
Yeah, and there's a thing of feeding for love, isn't there?
Yeah.
But Rupert's on small amounts of food. We feed him twice a day.
Here we go.
He's having a wander around.
Go and explore it. So twice a day, moderate amount.
Yeah, just a small amount.
Yeah.
He'd eat more if you gave him
well,
more,
he's on the hunt now.
Guys,
thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you
I
so much.
This. I absolutely love dogs.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
So really, do appreciate it.
They're leaving a trail, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. Now, right, Aidan is staying with us to run through the latest on sport next. Thanks for being with us. This is GB News Breakfast with Adam and Anne. More to come.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is the nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back, and of course now it's time for the sport. Now you've put the dogs down.
Yeah, we've brushed off, Anne, so we should be all right.
Yes, absolutely. They're very hairy.
Yeah,
yes, they are.
But they shed all the time. They're Samoyeds, I think, aren't they?
Yeah, a bit like some of the rugby players on show at Twickenham yesterday. It was certainly a dogs of war performance by...
what a segue.
Thanks very much indeed. Yeah. Well, look, I mean, what a performance by England. I mean, I certainly didn't see it coming. I said on Dawn Neeson's show yesterday that England would lose by 10 points. How wrong I was, because they really gave a brilliant account of themselves, and they needed it big time because Steve Borthwick was under pressure. 1 win in 7 matches. I think it was 8 defeats of the last 13 of England's last, I think, 9 Six Nations victories. 4 of those are against Italy, who are historically, perennially the wooden spoonists, with the exception of last year, and I don't think they're going to do it this year either. But nonetheless, they made it difficult for themselves. They gave France loads of chances in the first half. No score on the board after 29 minutes, which is quite unusual for a Six Nations match. But yeah, when it really mattered, Elliot Daly went over the line for that final try. In the last 10 minutes, the lead changed hands 3 or 4 times, and then Finn Smith just kept his nerve to send over the conversion late on, and it blows the competition wide open. Scotland face Ireland this afternoon. Italy played Wales yesterday. 14 defeats in a row now, and for Wales, Warren Gatland is cutting an increasingly beleaguered figure. I mean, what do you say to your troops every time you go into the dressing room? You've lost 14 games in a row, lads. You know, where do you go from here? You know,
it's a nation that's always been so proud of their...
Without doubt, it's the national sport.
Game.
Yeah, exactly. But look, they've got the next 2 matches are at home, and they'll be hoping to make a little bit of a change in fortunes around that time.
Can we talk about the Super Bowl?
Yes.
Because it's huge, and it's even getting big here, isn't it? Really?
It is. Yeah. I mean, what do you think the US TV audience? What do you reckon that would be?
Has it?
83 million.
No, go on.
Oh, I was going to say 100. Oh, I'm going to say 110 million.
124 million.
Ooh.
So it has fluctuated a bit in recent years around COVID time and things. People just didn't think it was as much of a spectacle.
Yeah.
But another 62 million globally as well on top of that. So this is an enormous event. Adverts. Half-time, we discussed this at half-time, in the break. So I'm going to say the half-time adverts are retailing now, just 30 seconds, $8 million.
Yeah.
Ben Affleck was paid $10 million just for one appearance in a Dunkin' Donuts advert last year, I believe.
Isn't that amazing?
It is,
I'd do it for $1 million, guys. Yeah. But it's the interesting. We're talking of the business side of the Super Bowl. Even a ticket in the gods, in the nosebleeds, that must set you back a certain amount of money.
Well, I think there's I mean, you're talking hundreds of dollars, sometimes thousands, but there's also a black market for it as well, which is a problem. But I mean, let's say who's playing first of all. It's Kansas City Chiefs against the Philadelphia Eagles. Kansas City Chiefs are going for their third in a row, so they're calling it a three-peat. But they're winning so often that some of the punters are getting a bit fed up with it. A bit of they're just fed up with the same team winning all the time.
Where can you watch it in Britain?
It'll be. I think it's on Channel 4. Or possibly,
I'm starting to get into NFL. I saw my first game when I went on holiday last year to Nashville. Saw the Tennessee Titans versus the New York Jets. And I sort of figured out what was going on towards the end. I do see why it's popular.
A friend of mine was a Titans fan, lived in Nashville, but it's quite significant that it's in New Orleans this year because they had the terror attack around New Year's Eve, or New Year's Day, I think it was. 14 people died there, but this would have been decided far in advance. But it's the 11th time the Superdome there has held the Super Bowl final, so it's a bit of a feather in their cap. Especially it's a town that's suffered such bereavement in the last. It has in the last 20 years. I was there about 18 years ago, I think it was. And it was still recovering 2 or 3 years after the event. I actually saw houses that had been fled on the way back from the airport into the town. They'd not been touched since the day they left, and nobody had been anywhere near them since. A lot of the dwellers there had moved to Texas.
Yeah.
OK, well, if you're into the Super Bowl, it's on tonight. And we've got to leave it there.
We have.
Thanks very much indeed. Newspapers in just a moment.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast. You may well be thinking of escaping the cloudy skies of the UK and heading to the Mediterranean, though it is rather mixed out there at the moment. There are some heavy showers and thunderstorms across parts of Malta and Sicily, though recent snowfall across the Alps should hopefully help with some skiing conditions. Perhaps the most settled conditions across parts of southern Iberia, Portugal and Spain, though there is some showery rain pushing into parts of Madeira as well. Generally, it is going to be the west that holds on to the most settled conditions during this week as well.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Lately, it's getting much better. The people getting more educated in terms of overall well-being of the skin health rather than temporary aesthetic treatments. Because most of the treatments in aesthetic, it doesn't change the texture of the skin. It just gives like volumetric result or remove the wrinkles temporarily.
So what are the most popular treatments that people are after?
According to a statistic report, first is anti-wrinkle, then dermal filler, then energy-based device.
Yeah.
But lately, biostimulators also became very popular. And
what do you mean by biostimulators?
Biostimulator, any substance that can change the texture of the skin, or like it will lead to postpone the aging process, or proliferate more collagen, increase the elasticity of the skin, such as polynucleotide or exosome, or different vitamins and minerals in the form of mesotherapy considered as a biostimulator.
Turkey's a particularly popular destination because the costs are so much lower. There have also been a lot of horror stories about what can happen when things go wrong, even people dying from post-surgery complications. What would you advise people?
Choose as a practitioner or surgeon very carefully and never prioritize price over quality. This is your face after all, your body after all. And mistakes can be reversible. It can be irreversible, and sometimes it's not like a booking restaurant or hotel. It's a sensitive matter that can affect their confidence and skin and body for life. So they need to choose very wisely. They need to search what kind of methodology that particular surgeon they perform the treatments. Are they using any safety tools?
GB News, the People's Channel.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. Maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Time to look through the newspapers. We have Andy Jones with us and Susan Holder, and thank you for coming back.
Hello, both.
Right, Susan, let's start with Gino De Campo.
Yes, so in the Daily Mirror, Gino has been quoted as saying that because I'm Gino and everybody knows me, I can get away with things somebody else could not. And I think that's interesting. Apparently he said this in 2022. I think the signs were there. I don't know what he obviously did or didn't do in reality. There is an investigation underway. People have alleged that he has been inappropriate in many ways. But I feel, and I'm not defending it in any way, but I'm speaking as a person who's produced television for a very long time, news, current affairs, lifestyle, all sorts of programmes, Loose Women at one point. And as a producer, can I just say, I think he was given very mixed messages by production people, in as much as he was on This Morning, an apron showing his bare bottom. He was given items to do where we made kind of fun of his accent because it might sound a bit naughty that he said this or he said that. Celebrity Juice was obviously a show he was on. I've no idea how half of the things on Celebrity Juice ever got past any censor, to be honest. I always was a bit amazed about that. And I think I'm not defending him, and he should have known better if he has done some of the things he's done. But you can't be having somebody on television and get them to do all those sort of things and then throw your hands up in horror when they go a bit far because they think it's funny and that everybody knows that it's funny.
Exactly.
So is ITV being a little bit hypocritical here?
I think ITV is being hypocritical. I think the problem you've also got is these people people think the talent is like all-important television, and no offence to people who are on air, but everyone kind of needs producing. But you need strong producing, and you need someone to say to you sometimes, "If I were you, I wouldn't do that." And if they do then cross the line, you don't even have to fire them. These people are on contracts. Just don't book them again.
But some producers like to cross the line.
Yeah,
they do.
The thing is, in an era where, and we know this on our show, that when you do something outrageous, it gets attention and it gets likes and it gets viewers. And that item that you did where you bared your bare bum or you cooked coq au vin and you made a big song and dance about it being coq au vin, right? Do that again. And then you are then teaching someone to be more and more outrageous. And there is some of the allegations of things he's done are beyond outrageous. This isn't just sort of carry-on style humour. This is some things he's accused of, which he denies are horrible. But you end up with this situation where you create this sort of monster and then you're surprised that this monster has then...
has then believed his own publicity.
Yeah, exactly. Quite. And the other thing is, I mean, Gwynne was a convicted burglar before he was ever on TV. And you're saying to somebody, and if Paul Young, he famously burgled Paul Young's house, the
stole
musician,
guitars.
Quite... And obviously, Gino did...
Yes, he served time.
Gino did time in prison. He served his penance for that, however. But you're basically saying sort of convicted burglary is OK to have on TV, but not somebody who says outrageous things. And I feel like we create this monster and then we're surprised when it gets out of control.
We'll read a statement on behalf of Gino D'Acampo from his legal team. I just want to ask very quickly, is there any way back for him? What's next for him, do you think? Too early to say?
I think as well, anyway, back from him, people can create their own YouTube channel now. People can create their own TV platform without even needing the gatekeepers of producers as executives. So he'll probably produce his own content.
Well, in response to the claims, Gino D'Acampo's legal team said Mr D'Acampo categorically denies these allegations of inappropriate sexual behaviour. A separate response from ITV said the broadcaster was not made aware of the original concerns in 2018, and they said ITV is completely committed to creating an environment where everyone is treated with respect and feels able to give their all. We can categorically confirm that this kind of behaviour is not tolerated by ITV.
OK, Andy, take us on to the story in the Sunday Times about Sir Keir Starmer, who tried to stop the BBC saying that he earned less than Sue Gray.
Yeah, so there's Sue Gray was his head of staff. Sue Gray was obviously the power behind the inquiry into Boris Johnson about what happened during lockdown and what he did, and was it a bit of birthday cake and was it not? Sue Gray then was head of staff, I suppose you'd say, for Keir Starmer. There was then discussion about how much Sue Gray was earning. It was revealed Sue Gray was earning probably, 5,000 or 6,000 more than him. I don't quite know why she wouldn't accept a salary that was slightly less, just to avoid the headlines. And this was about to break in the news, and Sir Keir Starmer busied himself by urging the BBC not to run the story that he was earning less than Sue Gray because of the negative headlines. BBC did eventually run the story a short while later, but it is this interference. And the story, which is in the Sunday Times, also discusses about how ill-prepared Labour were for government. Labour had 14 years outside of government. Sue Gray was brought in as someone who had great experience of government and the civil service. She was going to plan exactly what Labour's policies would look like on the ground day to day. And there's all these stories about, well, actually no one was doing any planning.
Yeah, it is extraordinary. She was sort of really a bureaucrat put into a political position. And so when
an
she got
advisor
in there,
whose name we shouldn't really have known. She should never have been the story.
Exactly.
And if you were the journalist who got the call to say Keir Starmer doesn't want you to run that story, gosh, it would make me look at it a bit harder. Wouldn't you think, well, that's come to the top of my list?
100%.
I'm definitely going to be looking at what's going on there.
But basically, it's wrong that he tried to interfere. I mean, that's what it boils down to, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Susan, let's move on, because I'm very aware we haven't got much time. I want to get through some more stories. That tobacco is now more valuable than silver?
Oh, who would have thought? Yes, apparently, price per gram, you could get more for tobacco than you do silver, and this has meant that actually corner shops are being raided more often, and it's part of organised crime.
Yeah, you're seeing it a lot at the moment, aren't you?
Yeah.
So they're grabbing tobacco?
Yeah, because it's actually priced by 87 pence a gram for tobacco and only 83 pence per gram for silver. And
it's easier to sell as well, tobacco.
Yeah.
We see so many videos on social media. There's one in the Tesco right by me in North London.
Yeah.
Gang walked in the middle of the day, just hoodies up, baseball bats, minimum wage staff in there, or low wage staff in there, not going to get in the way, and they just walk in, hold alls ready, just take all of it from behind the counter. It's not in front of the counter, behind the counter, take it all out and just walk out.
And they know they can get away with it.
I mean, we're known as a nation of shopkeepers. Who'd want to be a shopkeeper?
We're known as a nation of shoplifters.
Aren't they also nicking olive oil instead of wine?
Yeah.
Yes,
because, again, olive oil now is far more valuable.
But they're stealing these cigarettes by the caseload. So it would be possible to put a device in there that tracks where it goes if you were being targeted. I feel like there isn't enough done about arresting the individuals when they're stealing and then arresting those that are then selling.
No, we're almost accepting it, aren't we now?
Yeah.
Right, well, we are running out of time now, so sadly. Thank you very much, but we are going to see you again, aren't we? Yes, we are. Yeah. So let's check in on the weather right now, see how it is for you at the moment with this cold snap looming. Here's Jonathan Vautry.
Hello there, very good morning to you. This is your GB News weather update provided by the Met Office. There are some glimmers of sunshine around first thing today, but for many it is still rather cloudy, all due to the easterly wind that is setting itself back up, filtering in quite a lot of moisture from the North Sea, and that's providing quite extensive cloud cover, particularly across eastern areas where we will see outbreaks of rain and drizzle at times. Generally, though, if you're further towards the west, you've got a greater chance of seeing some sunshine today, particularly for northwestern Scotland. It's going to be another fine, lovely day here. Western areas of Wales, down towards Devon and Cornwall, the Scilly Isles should also see some sunshine at points today. But that easterly wind is going to continue to feed in that cloud, and so sunshine will become increasingly limited later on in the day, and we'll see some longer spells of rain arriving into southeastern England later on as well. Temperatures on the thermometer will be around 6 to 8 degrees Celsius, but again, we've got to factor in that easterly wind that is going to make it feel colder than these temperatures will show on the chart. Across northwestern Scotland, where we do hold on to the sunshine, certainly it will be a nice fine end to the day, but underneath the clear skies that hold on tonight, it is going to turn quite chilly. Again, there will be some frost around, maybe some freezing fog patches as well. And elsewhere, where temperatures do get close towards freezing, there could be some very localised icy stretches where surfaces remain wet and untreated. But for most of our towns and cities, temperatures will be around 3 to 4 degrees Celsius. As we start off this new working week, then, it is going to be a fairly dull, damp, dreary one, unfortunately. Again, a lot of extensive cloud cover right across the board, continuing to see some showers push their way in from the east. They'll be wintry over higher ground as well. It's always going to be western sides of things that will see the best of the sunshine. Again, northwestern Scotland probably seeing the best day out of everywhere. Temperatures really struggling, though, 4 to 6 degrees Celsius. Again, we've got to factor in the strength of the wind, so it's probably going to feel closer towards freezing, and that is going to continue right throughout the forthcoming week. Bye-bye.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
We're doubling your chances to win in our latest Great British giveaway, with 2 fabulous prize bundles up for grabs. There's 2 lots of a totally tax-free £10,000 in cash. You'll also receive a brand new iPhone 16, along with £500 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite store. And the best news is 2 lucky winners are going to win. For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. 1 entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB11 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 7th of March. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good morning, happy Sunday. A Labour minister is sacked.
Andrew Gwynne, the MP for Gordon and Denton, alleged to have wished death on a non-Labour voter.
As well as mocking Jewish names and female MPs.
Well, 7 months into this government and the scandals just keep coming. What could be next?
May they rest in peace. A heartbreaking tribute to the little girls who lost their lives in the Southport attack as their families speak out.
The Duke and Duchess of Sussex prove they're as loved up as ever as the Invictus Games opening ceremony begins.
And Captain Tom's daughter, Hannah Ingram Moore, sits down with Nana Akua for an exclusive interview.
There's a name that was picked up because it was too salacious not to, I think. A swim spa. Google it. That's the brand name. It's great. They're great little pools, but it's basically a hot tub at one end.
Well, what would Sunday be without a bit of fun? It's National Pizza Day, and we are going to celebrate in the only way you should.
Well, they left it until the last possible moment, but Elliot Daly's dramatic try sealed a famous Six Nations win for England over France at Twickenham yesterday. We'll hear about an FA Cup scare for Manchester City in the East End of London, and tonight it's the 59th Super Bowl in New Orleans.
There are some glimmers of sunshine amongst the cloud today. Join me later to find out if you're likely to see any of them.
Hello there, it's just gone 8 o'clock. I'm Anne Diamond.
And I'm Adam Cherry. This is GB News Breakfast.
AI is so brilliant nowadays, and every day you see more and more examples of the way it's been used. I mean, yesterday we were talking about the fact that a lot of people talk to AI as though it was a real person and get a lot of comfort from that.
Yes.
If they're feeling very, very
I found that
lonely.
fascinating, actually.
Yeah. And today we'll look into this a bit more later on with our newspaper reviewers. But today there's a story about Pierce Brosnan. Now, this happened, I think, to Brad Pitt. Was it a few weeks ago?
Yeah, there was Brad Pitt one.
Somebody has done an AI version of them that is so convincing. Mind you, the Brad Pitt one wasn't.
The Brad Pitt one wasn't. But this one is much more convincing.
Looks as though it's Pierce Brosnan having a conversation with you. And one woman has told her story about how it's brought her down, really, because she was convinced in the end they had a deal. He's an artist. I didn't know this. He paints. And his paintings go for quite a bit of money, apparently.
But
and he shows his paintings all over the world. And she thought she'd managed to convince him because she spoke to him, but it was the AI version, she didn't realise. She thought she'd got his permission and he was going to send some of his paintings to her gallery.
Wow.
So she sold tickets, come and see Pierce Brosnan's paintings and meet Pierce Brosnan. And it was a complete fake.
It's going to get worse, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
This technology is going to become more and more sophisticated.
It's very frightening if it's that good.
Yeah,
Do you think, someone asked me the other day, someone said, are you frightened or excited by it? It's interesting because, it is. I agree.
Yeah.
Someone said to me recently, they have frequent problems with staff calling in late and, all sorts of recruitment problems and stuff like that. And her boss said to her, bring on AI.
Yeah. No, there's going to be a lot more of that. I think, actually, in terms of things like medicine and engineering and all that sort of stuff...
Possibly do operations.
Really, we're not tomorrow. We're not that far away, to be honest. Look at the way it's going.
A week on Tuesday.
Yeah, exactly. This time next week, your dentist will be a robot. Fantastic.
I must say, you're very convincing as a human being.
Shh. Busted.
Anyway, shall we move on to politics, because there's a lot of it about. Our top story is the fact that the Prime Minister has now sacked one of his health ministers, Andrew Gwynne, after allegations that he made very offensive comments in a WhatsApp group.
Yeah, he's also been suspended as a member of the Labour Party and has since apologised for what he calls misjudged comments, which is putting it mildly.
It all happened very quickly because it followed an exposé by the Mail on Sunday in which he is reported to have made a litany of offensive comments.
Yeah, this included anti-Semitic remarks, as well as saying he hoped a non-Labour voting pensioner would die before the next election.
It's also alleged that he attacked members of his own party, including making racist slights towards the Labour MP Diane Abbott and sexist comments about Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner.
Well, in response, a government spokesperson said the Prime Minister is determined to uphold high standards of conduct in public office and lead a government in the service of working people. He will not hesitate to take action against any minister who fails to meet these standards, as he has in this case. Well, let's get the thoughts of former Immigration Minister Kevin Foster, who joins us in the studio. Kevin, what's next here? Because it just feels like this keeps happening for a government that was supposed to be change, transparency, stability. Doesn't feel like it's going that way.
Well, no. And Andrew Gwynne is the sort of person who spent 20 years in Parliament attacking others. The world, it was always 4 legs good, 2 legs bad, as far as he was concerned. Anyone who wasn't in the Labour Party was terrible. Anyone who was in his party was superb. And he was once called a big girl's blouse by Boris Johnson. He should just be called a nasty piece of work. This wasn't one mistake. This wasn't an ill-timed joke. This was, over years, sustained, unpleasant remarks, including about members of his own party, and just really showed him to be quite a vile individual who actually should rightly be out of Parliament as well, not just out of his ministerial job.
Well, I mean, I was going to say he thought he was, to a certain extent, I suppose, being private in a WhatsApp group. But you can't trust anyone else in a WhatsApp group, really, especially if you're going to be like that.
Well, I think having seen all the leaks of the Conservative MP's WhatsApp group in the last Parliament, no, it's not. And this wasn't a private family WhatsApp group. No. There were other Labour councillors on it. There was, we believe, another Labour MP on it, who were all happily sat there listening to all this and didn't think it would be an idea to expose the hypocrite this man was. I think this story hasn't ended just by the firing of Andrew Gwynne. I expect the next phase of this will be the Labour Party needing to deal with the others who were on this.
Because, as you say, there was another Labour MP in that group chat at minimum, and Labour councillors, and this was going on for a protracted period. It wasn't just one message in one group chat at one time.
All in Tameside, near of a failing Labour council.
Yeah, well, I was just thinking of him personally. I mean, obviously, the next question is, does he have any future as a politician now? Surely not, because he was rude about his own constituents. I mean, he should resign as an MP, shouldn't he?
Yeah, he should be leaving Parliament, not just his ministerial job. I must say, I suspect a good friend who helps Reform with their campaign is probably already on his way up to Tameside as we speak, given they were second there.
And that will be interesting, because that'll be the first by-election of this young government.
Well, very interesting, because, of course, we should also be having one in Runcorn as well, with a Labour MP who also was a similar attack dog. Has been convicted of an assault. So, similarly, this is really... no party's perfect. We'll all have issues. But in this particular man's instance, he's constantly attacked others. Anyone who'd listen to him, he'd have attacked Boris Johnson on integrity, and all the time he was sat on his phone doing that.
Yeah, true, but I mean, there's plenty of scandals in the last 14 years. That's why the Tories are no longer there, right? So
yeah, but
it's sort of a plague on all your houses.
Reform is the new kid on the block. I mean, and there are huge articles, even in, for instance, newspapers like The Observer, where you might not expect it, suggesting that Starmer and the Labour Party are on the run from Nigel Farage and Reform UK.
Yeah, if we look at places like the area around Tameside, they voted Leave. Currently got Labour MPs and a heavily Labour-dominated council. It's the sort of place where Reform will be taking an interest. And yeah, I'm not going to say that any party's had its issues. Reform's had its issues. We've had our issues. Yeah. I think it's when we come back to this individual, Mr. Gwynne. He was the man who was usually he'd be touring the media studios, having a go at everyone else, how terrible it all was, and now we see what he was getting up to in our private WhatsApp group.
Just more broadly, what do you make of these reports that the government are now going to video deportation flights, are going to be more showbiz about their politics and prove, in their view, that they're taking action? Is that necessary? Because people just don't believe that these flights are taking off in that specific example. Is that where our politics is going?
Well, I've no problem with the idea that people get to see the process of deportation. Sometimes people think that people just calmly walk onto a plane, and I have to say it's very different. You haven't seen all the sorts of things people do on the day they are being deported to try and frustrate their removal. Everything from refusing to get dressed to, suddenly they can't walk. You name it, they try and do it. That said, though, sometimes I go ask you to be clear who it is removing. Because when they were talking about small boats, they said, we sent the 3 biggest flights, but those flights, I think, went to Brazil, which clearly is not a source of small boat migrants.
No, we need to know about it and see it, don't we?
Absolutely. I've got no problem with openness,
if the government wants
showing
us to
show people what you're doing, and also actually makes it a more informative process. And, you can see what President Trump's doing. Over here, we should be, plenty are keen to criticise him in the past. Perhaps may need to be taking a leaf out of his book.
OK, we'll leave it there. Thanks so much for coming in this morning. We'll move on. Something else that President Trump has done is he's been quite outspoken. He said he's not going to seek to deport Prince Harry because the Duke already has enough problems with his wife. And then he said, she's terrible.
Yeah, well, that comes after the Duke and Duchess of Sussex cheered on the UK team at the Invictus Games opening ceremony in Vancouver.
Let's talk to former royal correspondent for The Sun, Charles Ray. Morning, Charles. My goodness, those pictures of Harry and Meghan at the Invictus Games, they were putting on such a public display of affection, you couldn't help but think that's for Donald Trump.
Well, as possible. And good morning to you too as well. I mean, what a put down by Donald Trump, though. That is something, and he's not forgotten the fact that Meghan said, when she went to Canada, remember when she went to Canada and was going to move to the States, I'm not going to go there if Donald Trump becomes is president. And what did she do? Moves to Montecito. It's quite incredible that he's said this, and he's obviously got no love lost, as have a great many people for Meghan, and he's made his voice quite clear on this.
Yes, I mean, and it's quite unusual to see sort of things like that being said, even if it's probably voicing what a lot of people think. What did you think, though, when you saw the pictures of them? Like I said, these public displays of affection, it's not something we normally see from them, but she was snogging her husband. Now, I'm not suggesting there's anything wrong with that, except that we don't usually see it.
No, we don't. I mean, you've got to work out what is happening in the background. I mean, I don't subscribe to this social media scenario, their marriage is on the rocks and they're going to split up. I don't see any signs of that, at all. And I sincerely hope that their marriage doesn't split up, because really, in reality, they've only got each other and no one else. But yeah, I mean, clearly there's been some talks in the background that they've got to put on more of a united front, because everything else that they've tried beforehand hasn't really worked. And I'm not saying that what she did with snogging him and everything else is false. I sincerely believe that they have got affection and love for each other. But, it's a bit suspicious that it's suddenly being done now. But of course, when you see Catherine and William together in, friendlier moments, she's putting her arm on William and everything else. Well, that's in effect, that's the same thing. Okay, so there's no snogging involved straight away. But I mean, it's a bit much criticising them for doing that when you see it happen in other members of the royal family. I mean, one thing I would like to say, you know, I'm not a fan of Harry or Meghan, as you know. I have to say, when it comes to the Invictus Games, I cannot fault him or her in this. What they do, and it's what they're supposed to do, what the members of the royal family are supposed to do, is highlight the subject that they're dealing with, and there's no question that they are highlighting that subject. And
Hear,
quite
hear.
rightly.
Absolutely, hear, hear. Charles, it's good to talk to you. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you, and a happy Sunday. Actually, it's interesting because they're the subject of our poll of the day, or at least Harry is. It's a simplistic question. It's, should Prince Harry return to the UK?
Yeah, interesting. And we'll be bringing you the live results throughout the day, so make sure to stay tuned. The final result will be announced later in Nana A Quiz Show. For all our latest polls, news and how to vote, of course, you just go to gbnews.com/poll.
Let's have a look now then at some of the other stories coming into the newsroom. And the parents of 2 of the little girls killed in the Southport knife attack say they're looking for light in the darkness. It's a heartbreaking way of putting it, isn't it? Speaking to the Sunday Times, Elsie and BB's families remembered their daughters as confident, happy and intelligent little girls. And they opened up about their children's funerals and the support of the communities in the months since that horrendous attack. And of course, let's not forget Alice as well.
Of course, yeah. Now, the barrister acting on behalf of baby killer Lucy Letby has called on the government to halt the Thirlwall inquiry, as he claims it is operating on the belief that she is guilty. Last week, a panel of 14 experts presented new evidence to explain their theory that no murders took place at the Countess of Chester Hospital. And Letby has been convicted of 7 murders and the attempted murder of 7 others.
The family of the released Israeli hostage Eli Sharabi, he was released yesterday, say they're really relieved he's free, but heartbroken at how frail he looks. His wife and 2 daughters were killed by Hamas militants during the October 7th attack. Meanwhile, all 183 Palestinian prisoners due to be released and exchanged have now been freed.
Right, well, we need to check in on the weather. Let's see how it's looking where you are. This is the latest with Jonathan Vautry.
Despite the morning rain, it'll be a nice, warm, cosy day ahead. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, very good morning to you. This is your GB News weather update provided by the Met Office. There are some glimmers of sunshine around first thing today, but for many it is still rather cloudy, all due to the easterly wind that is setting itself back up, filtering in quite a lot of moisture from the North Sea, and that's providing quite extensive cloud cover, particularly across eastern areas where we will see outbreaks of rain and drizzle at times. Generally, though, if you're further towards the west, you've got a greater chance of seeing some sunshine today, particularly for northwestern Scotland. It's going to be another fine, lovely day here. Western areas of Wales, down towards Devon and Cornwall, the Scilly Isles should also see some sunshine at points today. But that easterly wind is going to continue to feed in that cloud, and so sunshine will become increasingly limited later on in the day, and we'll see some longer spells of rain arriving into southeastern England later on as well. Temperatures on the thermometer will be around 6 to 8 degrees Celsius, but again, we've got to factor in that easterly wind that is going to make it feel colder than these temperatures will show on the chart. Across northwestern Scotland, where we do hold on to the sunshine, so it will be a nice fine end to the day, but underneath the clear skies that hold on tonight, it is going to turn quite chilly. Again, there will be some frost around, maybe some freezing fog patches as well. And elsewhere, where temperatures do get close towards freezing, there could be some very localised icy stretches where surfaces remain wet and untreated. But for most of our towns and cities, temperatures will be around 3 to 4 degrees Celsius. As we start off this new working week, then, it is going to be a fairly dull, damp, dreary one, unfortunately. Again, a lot of extensive cloud cover right across the board, continuing to see some showers push their way in from the east. They'll be wintry over higher ground as well. It's always going to be western sides of things that will see the best of the sunshine. Again, northwestern Scotland probably seeing the best day out of everywhere. Temperatures really struggling though, 4 to 6 degrees Celsius. Again, we've got to factor in the strength of the wind, so it's probably going to feel closer towards freezing, and that is going to continue right throughout the forthcoming week. Bye-bye.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Martin Daubney. Weekdays from 3 p.m.
An absolute monster. It took Chloe and Sean Ing 90 minutes to reel in this gigantic 8-foot-long monster fish from Chigborough Fisheries in Essex. And upon weighing this enormous marine beast, it was found to have been 7 pounds heavier than the existing British record, a 143-pound catfish caught also in Essex. But as I understand it, you actually went for a Chinese meal when fate struck. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah. So I was fishing an area of Chigborough where you have to fish at a fair distance. So I cast my rods out and then we ordered a Chinese. And yeah, so I got the bite at about 10 to 8 at night. And then about 20 minutes into it, my phone started ringing, the Chinese guys at the gate with my delivery. So I had to send a couple of guys off to go and get it. And then, yeah, the fight, obviously, you can't just stop the fight to go and get your Chinese. So, yeah, the fight went on, for about an hour and a half in total. There's no net in the world that's big enough for this fish. So we had to send out, first of all, I sent out a mate, Alex. He went out there to go and basically use what we call a sling. So that's a safe apparatus that we use to take the fish out of the water. He then went to and he turned around and he was like, we're going to need another sling. So then we sent out another friend with a sling, and these slings are 4 foot long each. So then we had the catfish wrapped up in 2 slings, and it was still slightly longer than that. And then we got to a point where we was like, now we've got to try and get it out of the water to photo, to weigh it, because obviously we knew then that it was possibly going to be a UK record.
GB News.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date. Or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
So as we sit in Captain Tom's room, how has this whole experience left you in terms of financially and also mentally?
Thank you for asking the question, because the reality is that this has been devastating on a personal level, emotionally, financially. To have a reputation that you build up over decades and it can be demolished so quickly, that's exactly what's happened.
I was reading in the newspaper a bit earlier, and I'm just trying to find the story again now, about a vase that, sort of think a Ming vase, right? A Chinese old vase that was somebody owned, and they took it along to the Antiques Roadshow in the 70s, when it wasn't called the Antiques Roadshow, it was called Going for a Song. Do you remember? And apparently the expert took one look at this vase and said, it looks wonderful, but it's a very, very clever fake. I mean, that's what it is. Yeah. And so they took their vase home and they bunged it, I don't know, up in the attic somewhere or under a bed in a box or something for 40 years.
I can see where this is going, right.
And then I think the couple who owned it died. And when one of their children was clearing out the house, they thought, we ought to get this thing valued. And they did. They took it over to Sotheby's or something and said, we were told it was a very clever fake. And they went, no, this isn't a fake. This is the real thing.
How much? How much?
85 million.
Wow, that's like something out of Only Fools and Horses when they find the watch and Del Boy passes out.
£85 million it was worth, but the first lot of people, experts on the Going for a Song, didn't think so. So it just was stuck under the bed. It's a good job they didn't go home and just trash it, isn't it?
You say this is a lesson to everyone at home.
Don't you love stories like that?
Yeah, go and look in your attic. You might have 85 million quid lurking up there somewhere.
85 million. million.
Be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I'll try and find a few more details. It wasn't a particularly beautiful vase either, but apparently it was the real thing.
Wow, unbelievable. Right, now, should we go to the giveaway? Because we've got some good stuff. Talking of...
money.
Yeah, money and everything that might make you smile on this wintry morning. We haven't quite got 85 million, but what we have got is two fabulous prize bundles, which both contain £500 worth of shopping vouchers for your favourite store, latest iPhone 16, and a whopping 10 grand in tax-free cash. Not quite 85 million, but there we go. It'll do. Here are the details.
We're doubling your chances to win in our latest Great British giveaway with two fabulous prize bundles up for grabs. There's 2 lots of a totally tax-free £10,000 in cash. You'll also receive a brand new iPhone 16 along with £500 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite store. And the best news is 2 lucky winners are going to win. For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB11 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 7th of March. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Hello again. We're getting very worried about capital gains tax, aren't we? As to whether that vase that's worth now £85 million, will the people who own it, will they have to pay capital?
No, I think yes, because when you dispose of the asset, that's when you pay capital gains. And if it's 85 million, the taxman is going to say, yeah, come on, let's have my bit. But then if they got it if it was inherited, I'm pretty sure... we should have some accountants on to talk about this, but I'm pretty sure there's going to be a 20-odd million pounds.
You're now feeling very worried for the person who owns an 85
Someone
million
please
vase.
think of the man and woman who've just sold an 85 million pound vase that's been collecting dust in the attic.
Anyway, won't we? Now, interestingly, talking of money, Work and Pensions Secretary Liz Kendall has said that some people on benefits are simply taking the mickey.
Yeah, is that a sign that she's getting tough, or is it to hush all the talk from Labour's critics?
And are Britons on benefits actually taking the mickey, or is this a case of painting everyone with the same brush?
Well, joining us now is chronic fatigue mentor Georgia Bondi and former presenter of Fat Families, Steve Miller. Good morning to you both. Let's kick things off here. Right. Steve, yes.
You'll have an opinion on this. So are these snowflakes or grifters, people on benefits, are they taking the mickey?
Oh, we have a lot of shirkers who should be workers. There's no doubt about that. And I think everybody listening or watching this programme knows at least one of them. The figures are astonishing, by the way. 2023 to 24, we spent £285 billion on welfare. That's expected to hit £360 billion by 2028-29 if we have no reform. What shocked me looking into this was the government, for every pound it spends, it's spending nearly 25p on welfare. So yes, I do think there are many shirkers. And the thing, don't get me wrong, there are people that are genuine, that have genuine issues that need to be supported. But there is no doubt, all of us know at least one person actually who is taking the mickey, who needs to get their backside into work and stop staying in the sofa with it, and need to get a sense of responsibility. And we've become far too soft, and now I hope that the Labour minister puts her money where her mouth is to check it out more deeply.
Georgia, your thoughts?
I think it's really easy to look at the big numbers for welfare spending and forget that it's literally about 2.7% of that spending that goes to people who don't deserve it. The rest of the almost 98% goes to people who actually need it, as you say. And we can all think about the people who are fraudulent. But this really seems to me to just be a way of, as you say, hiding the fact that Labour is about to backpedal on their promise to not do austerity, cut benefits, and by creating an enemy of the people who are fraudulent, they get to ignore the fact that they are actually harming the most vulnerable people in society, which is about the 98% of people who are on benefits who actually need them to do things like buy food, which I think we can all agree is essential.
Yes, but so how do you tell the sincere, honest people who need those benefits and people who are taking us all for a ride? Steve?
Well, we need greater accountability, and we need. I mean, the PIP, for example. I know this is a true story. I know someone who's on PIP, and they use it as their money to get down the boozer. It's the drink money each week. So we need greater accountability. We need much more bold investigation. And we need people to be much more accountable for it. Yes, there are genuine people, I get that, and they need to be supported. But I'm afraid things like claiming that people, you know, someone has a mental health issue, it's the new bad back, isn't it? A lot of people shout and scream, I've got mental health issues, when in fact, actually, it's a load of old cobblers. Yeah. And do people fake it? Are people telling porkies? Yes, I believe many people are. And they should be ashamed of themselves, because there are people with genuine mental health issues who cannot get access to services and do deserve the support.
Georgia, is this a bit of a hangover from COVID? People who have got used to staying at home and see going out to work as a stress in itself?
I think there is a hangover from COVID, but I would call that hangover long COVID, which was a mass disabling event, an event that meant that a larger proportion of the population is now disabled. And yet the government, they don't want to acknowledge that. They want to think, wouldn't it be nice if this was just a problem of people's motivation? Motivation is so much easier to fix than a new disease that we don't understand, that we don't have a cure for. So I think the idea that it's, well, there's so many people claiming that they are ill and they're not ill, we have numbers on that. We know that that percentage is, again, around 2.7%. 2.7%.
How do you assess it? How do you assess it? I don't agree. I think, how do you assess it? I think the assessment, I know people that fill out these PIP forms and they get advice on how to fill it out and how to sort of blag it. So and they get their PIP, and there's very little check and investigation in terms of whether they actually deserve that PIP.
Have you actually been part of the PIP system ever, or are you just telling stories that you heard down the pub? Because the PIP system,
you're wrong. No.
Let me speak, please.
You asked me a question.
Let her finish the question.
One at a time.
Let her finish the question.
When you apply for PIP, not only do you fill out a form that says exactly what your issues are and why you need support, you also have to have the backup of a doctor to confirm that that is true. Then you have to go in person to do an assessment with an assessor who will literally check things like, can you stand up? Can you touch your toes? Then, if they don't believe you, they will do another assessment. They will do things like once a year, if you have an amputated limb, they will check in and reassess you once a year. That limb's not going to grow back. This fear around people faking it has led to disabled people across the UK being under immense pressure to prove that they are still disabled when they literally have no legs, and that's not going to change. And so this idea that there are people who can just walk through and get PIP, it just isn't a reality. It is a fear that people have, and it's something that the government uses to scapegoat, but it isn't a reality for the vast majority of claimants. And the vast majority of claimants will be harmed by thinking like yours.
Listen, I've been advised that I should claim PIP, actually, because I have a condition, apparently, where I could get about 90 quid a week. Will I do it? No, I won't. But I've been told, and yes, you are right. There are many genuine people that deserve it. I'm fully supported that. I know a lot of actors as well, not in terms of professional actors, but I know a lot of people that can fake it. Yes, that's anecdotal evidence. I take your point on that. But, you know, I think it would be very naive to believe that everyone claiming PIP and everyone claiming a benefit in this day and age is thoroughly genuine. And as for COVID, yes, I agree that COVID was very challenging for people. But unfortunately, it got people into the habit of not working. That's the biggest problem. It got people into the habit of not working and of course, not wanting to go back to work and earn their crust. And that's been the problem.
Georgia, Steve, we're going to have to leave it there, I'm afraid. It's an interesting debate. Thank you both very much for coming on. And honestly, we could talk about that all day, couldn't you? It's a perennial debate.
Yes. And I think, yes, he's right that we all know people who may be taking the mickey, but you can't prove it with everybody. And indeed, we've done stories before, haven't we, where there are people who will come online and advise you how to pretend.
But then also there's the benefits trap, people who want to come off benefits and get to work, but then they're worse off.
OK,
the tax structure.
Yes, absolutely. We're doing sport next.
Yes, still to come, it is Super Bowl Sunday. That and more with Ada McGee, who will be with us next. This is GB News with Adam and Anne.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Headliners. Tomorrow's papers tonight, every night from 11 p.m.
We've got the Daily Mail now with the latest in the court case over whether a man is a woman or a man. It's a tough question. And J.K. Rowling has given her opinion. I think I can guess what it is, Cressida.
Explosive twist in Australia's What is a Woman trans battle as Harry Potter author J.K. Rowling gets involved. So this is the court case Giggle versus Tickle. Tickle was a...
He's Mr. Men.
That's right. It's a Mr. Men trans battle.
Kind of is a Mr. Man.
It was a women's group, wasn't it? Tickle, Giggles... Oh, I get it wrong. Giggles for girls. And Roxy Tickle, who is a trans woman, wanted to join this group and wasn't allowed, was banned for being a biological male, and then sued and amazingly got $10,000 for this, which is already... extraordinary to me.
Yeah.
But it's now doubling down and is going to file a cross appeal seeking to upgrade the judgment.
Yeah.
So Roxy has come back for another bite of the cherry.
And I've had a look at this Roxanne Tickle, the trans woman.
Pretty?
No, not one of the pretty ones. Not a Blair White. Just looks like, to be honest, it looks like
you could be sued for $10,000.
Looks like one of us.
Yeah.
To be honest, no, like I mean, I'll happily.
For yourself.
No, I think it's an absolute. It's a farce, and it's making a mockery of not just. It's not just making a mockery of, you know, women's right to have their own spaces. It's making a mockery of genuine trans people who actually put some effort in and look like a woman.
What do you mean a genuine trans
And also,
people?
if
We don't believe in that.
No, if your name was Roxanne, if you were going to transition, you wouldn't pick the name Roxanne Tickle.
What?
You choose Tess.
Tess. That's a kind of name. No, the truth is that's one of the problems, is you get a choice in the name you're going to choose. And of course, you're going to choose like a hot Roxanne. That's a hot Roxanne. That's a great name. They're not going to choose.
You don't think
Louis.
Tess would work better with Tickle?
GB News, the People's Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Right, Aidan is here. Let's go through, on Super Bowl Sunday, let's go through the sports news.
Yes.
But we'll start with British news first, shall we?
Yeah, a bit of FA Cup, why not? Leyton Orient gave Manchester City a real scare yesterday in the East End of London. First time they've played each other in donkey's years. I can't remember in my lifetime those two facing off against one another. But Leyton Orient took the lead in the first half with a goal from the halfway line. It was actually given as an own goal because it hit the crossbar, hit the goalkeeper, and then it went in. So officially, it's an own goal. But I imagine the goal scorer would have been disappointed with that because it was a hell of a strike. But they turned it around in the second half. Pep Guardiola said afterwards that KDB, who's Kevin De Bruyne, who's came off the bench and said he saved my job. Now, I don't think he's completely truthful when he's saying that, because he's got plenty of credit in the bank, having won the treble a couple of years ago. But nonetheless, it was a desperate situation and it was turned around. Brighton won 2-1 against Chelsea. Now, Alan and I discussed on yesterday morning about the VAR controversy at Manchester United. Most people actually who have been asked about it said that, including managers here, said they prefer life without it because it's not in the third and fourth rounds of the FA Cup. And yesterday we saw another gaffe by the officials as well, because there was a handball in the lead up to Brighton's winning goal. Handball by Tariq Lamptey, and then that put Chelsea out of the FA Cup at the fourth round stage. And so the Brighton manager said afterwards, and I suppose it's easy to say that when your side's just won, but he said he prefers the emotion of football, without VAR having to go back and really go through every stage and cause delays in the stadium as well. At least those fans, when the ball went in the net, could actually justifiably get up and celebrate without thinking, oh, hang on, wait.
So that's
let's wait.
It grinds the game to a halt.
Without doubt. I mean, I've been in the stadium before. It actually looks quicker on television, Anne, because they can see freeze frames and they can see what the referee and the officials are looking at, and they can hear audio sometimes. So it can be quite good television. But I was in Tottenham against Chelsea last year, where we had multiple interventions, and I ended up asking this woman, where she'd been on holiday, because we were sat in the stand for 6 minutes waiting.
Because it takes so long in football to get the result.
This is interesting as well. Tottenham have had lots of injuries. They've had more VAR interventions than anybody else, and they reckon it's been. There's my pen. It happens every week, doesn't it? It's been suggested that the delay and the players standing around has been the cause of some of their hamstring injuries.
Well, I'll bet. But in tennis, where the judgment is much. What's the system they use in tennis? It's Hawkeye, but that's instantaneous. But there's also a system of challenges, isn't there? Yeah, but nevertheless, if you go to one of these live tennis matches, and you go, the Hawkeye, waiting for Hawkeye to do its thing because it's instant, is part of the fun. Yes, it actually adds to the drama.
Well, I've always said that one of the. I said this 15 years ago and I was laughed out of the house. Having seen it in tennis, I thought challenges, give each captain a challenge, two challenges, one challenge per half. That could add to the fun. And it stops with the frivolous appeals as well, because you've only got one or two to have, and you wouldn't use it to waste time or anything. But nonetheless, that was the FA Cup, and we've got Plymouth playing against Liverpool today, which should be quite fun. Anne's favourites, Bournemouth, went to Everton and won 2-0, so they're into the fifth round of the FA Cup.
Hey. And then the Super Bowl is on tonight.
Yes, Super Bowl is on tonight. That is the Kansas City Chiefs against the Philadelphia Eagles. Kansas City are chasing a third Super Bowl in a row, so that would be a three-peat, as they're calling it. We looked at some of the eye-watering numbers earlier on, didn't we?
I was going to say, it's such a money spinner, isn't it? It's not really just about the football. That's about 10% of it.
I checked on StubHub earlier in the last half an hour, and just after our meeting with the dogs, and the tickets were going for between £2,000 and £10,000 tonight for the set. But you've got to get to New Orleans in that time. I don't think you'll be able to do it. Wow. But the adverts, 30 seconds are going to cost you $8 million. We're looking at a US TV audience of around about 124 million, plus another 62 from outside. And it's one of the biggest TV sporting events.
And then you've got the halftime show, which is a spectacle on its own, isn't it?
Without doubt,
Who's singing?
Kendrick Lamar is going to be there. Taylor Swift has been spotted. Taylor Swift
has been spotted
in New Orleans, but she has a connection with the
Well,
NFL.
there will be some sort of special tribute, of course, won't there, to the people who were affected by that terrible terrorist incident in New Orleans. If you remember, it was the man who drove
just after New Year, wasn't
it? Yeah, I think it was New Year's Day.
It was
like a Christmas market. It should have been a wonderful evening, and this terrible terrorist incident happened, and that was in New Orleans. So there will be, I think, some sort of
exactly. And Donald Trump will be there. He's the first sitting US president ever to attend a Super Bowl, which really surprised me, actually.
Is that right?
Yeah, I thought US presidents would have gone to that. I mean, he still was as common as seeing Prince Charles as he was, and the Queen at the FA Cup final.
Exactly.
As he used to be. Prince William's there all the time. And a quick reference to the rugby as well. Yesterday, we've covered it in previous hours, but England had a stonking win against France yesterday, against the odds, actually, at Twickenham, 26-25. They left it late, but they got the job done.
Lovely.
Right, have a good weekend.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you. And just in case you're after chasing the sun, for a few days at least, here are the top European holiday destinations weather-wise. Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean all clear skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast. You may well be thinking of escaping the cloudy skies of the UK and heading to the Mediterranean, though it is rather mixed out there at the moment. There are some heavy showers and thunderstorms across parts of Malta and Sicily, though recent snowfall across the Alps should hopefully help with some skiing conditions. Perhaps the most settled conditions across parts of southern Iberia, Portugal and Spain, though there is some showery rain pushing into parts of Madeira as well. Generally, it is going to be the west that holds on to the most settled conditions during this week as well.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Well, specialist from Woolly and Wallace Auction House, Alexandra Aguilar, joins me now. Alexandra, how lovely to see you. And I wonder whether you were going to bring the jewellery in. You're actually wearing the jewellery. So shall we begin with the bracelet?
Right, so it's a diamond line bracelet, as you can see. It's really a beautiful thing. It's made of 27 diamonds with a yellow tint, and they are mounted on yellow gold, and it's really a beautiful, beautiful piece. But there's more to it, and as you mentioned, it's the provenance. It comes from the collection of Elizabeth Taylor, really one of the queens of Hollywood, and it was given to her by Michael Jackson.
Have you any idea why Michael Jackson gave her such a magnificent gift?
They were very, very good friends. They were friends for over 20 years, and he knew her love for diamonds, for jewelry, and we know that they exchanged many presents, including this fantastic bracelet.
Would that have been made new at that time?
Yes, I believe so.
We're talking, what, about the 1970s or something like that?
Oh, maybe a little bit later.
Later, 80s?
Yes, that's right. But what's particularly interesting about this one is all the 27 diamonds have the same colour. And it's very difficult to find stones with the same colour, with the same yellow tint. So it makes it particularly beautiful and particularly special.
Why do you think it will go for about £70,000?
It's... well, it is a beautiful piece. It's very wearable, as you can see, and there is the provenance is amazing. Jewelry from the collection of Elizabeth Taylor is very sought after, of course.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Right, it's newspaper time, and we're joined again by Andy and Susan for our last look at what's in the papers today. Susan, tell us about Pierce Brosnan and his AI
Well,
version.
I'll tell you about Pierce Brosnan, but of course it's not really Pierce Brosnan. The story in the Mail is about a gallery owner in Nottingham who has lost her gallery because she contacted what she thought was Pierce Brosnan's Facebook account to try and see. Because did you know he was also an artist as well as being an actor and James Bond?
That, yeah, he actually...
And not much of a singer, but
he
let's not go there.
paint art, and apparently his art goes for quite some money.
And she set up this sort of to and fro where she received video calls. The video calls never quite worked, but they never do they? No. The sound sometimes wasn't right, or the picture wasn't quite right, but it looked like Pierce. She thought she was doing a deal with Pierce Brosnan, and she sent money over to have some of his paintings brought for an exhibition. She sold tickets on the basis, and when the tickets went on sale, Pierce Brosnan or his people saw this and sent a kind of cease and desist and letter and said, this isn't me and I'm not doing this now, dare you, kind of thinking that she'd kind of set this up. She says, I'm the victim of a scam here. But obviously everyone's a victim here. She's lost her gallery. Piers Brosnan has been put in a situation where he's been, sold as something that he isn't.
Yeah.
And this is the problem with what AI can do and how things are set up. We don't know who's who anymore.
We don't have the sort of... She thought she was on a video call with him, ultimately. Yeah. We don't have I think we've got a still of that, of what he looked like. And we don't know how convincing it was, but she, by the sound of it, was convinced that she was doing a deal with the real Piers Brosnan.
And she had a couple of friends with her who also said that they were taken in.
Yeah, the AI video, it wasn't just a sort of pre-programmed thing, it was reacting to the things she said. And there were moments where the sound sort of cut out a bit, but she probably thought, well, it was an international call, he's probably on the move, whatever. But these AI videos are increasingly believable, and also very often AI can produce these without necessarily any human interaction. So AI will be able to take video of people it sees on TV and for the purposes of scammers just create thousands and thousands and thousands of videos and send them out of public figures talking to you in real time.
So this problem is going to get worse and worse as the AI gets more sophisticated, which is happening basically every day.
And I don't know how you protect yourself against
there must be things online that can detect scams. Are there no ways of showing when something has been AI enhanced?
There is.
That must be one way of doing it.
There is, but I wonder... Perhaps there is, but they need it.
A lot of the verification will then be faked in itself. And then you'll have fakes of verification. And so as rapidly as the technology to manage it is increasing, the criminals will be increasing their technology the other way.
Yeah, there's an arms race here.
The lesson is, though, I mean, something seems too good to be true, it often is. I mean, I've been followed on X by Keanu Reeves, but instinctively I thought it probably isn't. Keanu Reeves following me.
Yeah, but you see, somebody might then be flattered by that and start the communication with him. Yeah. And then you've been hooked in.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I'm just missing out on an opportunity to have a relationship with Keanu Reeves.
Well,
I think possibly not.
You never know. But people need to get smart on this stuff very quickly, so people need to get educated, particularly the more vulnerable people who are more likely to fall for this sort of stuff. But you need to help each other out.
This was a business owner who genuinely thought that this was an opportunity. I think we saw a scam not long ago in France where a lady thought that she was in a relationship with Brad Pitt.
I've covered that
and she gave away 6 figures in fees for Brad Pitt to have an operation. And some of them are so ridiculous you can believe they fell for them. But others of them are very believable. And actually, in terms of targeting high-profile celebrities, there are a lot of sort of not necessarily high-profile celebrities like Martin Lewis, who does the financial advice. He has AI about him all over the internet because he talks about finance and schemes, and then so the AI scammers will use his face as a believable spokesperson for fictitious products.
And as you're scrolling very quickly, you're not taking that much in. People aren't reading things in depth. You might just think, oh yes, I've seen Martin Lewis. That must be okay because he's said that, or Anne Diamond says that we should do this, or I should support this charity, or I should do that. And it could be anybody being used like that. Celebrities also need to be able to protect themselves in some way.
Yeah, of course. People need to, like I said, people need to get educated and we need to help each other. I think that's the answer to it at the moment. Shall we move on? What do we want to go to next, guys? What's caught your attention?
Andy.
Should we talk about this gambling story?
Yes.
So Love Island's Jack Fincham, who's a reality star of a certain repute, says it feels like a failure after blowing £1 million on drugs, booze and gambling, which is a story as old as time. And he talks about that. But one of the things that I found really interesting and speaks to about the dangers of online gambling, we have this huge discourse about sports betting in football, Premier League football clubs being sponsored by betting, horse racing's obviously got gambling problems as well that have been discussed. But one of the things that are not really discussed is how addictive online casinos are. Whereas if you are betting on football, there is only a certain number of matches every day, certain things you can bet on. Horse races, there's only a limited number of horse races. With online casinos, you can literally bet, as this individual Jack Fincham was doing, 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 on a hand every sort of 20, 30 seconds.
Is that right? I thought they restricted it.
Yes, I thought there'd be limits.
He said that he would go to a TV studio, do an appearance, and then in the taxi on the way home, he'd gamble £7,000 just on online casinos. And Labour government are spending £100 million on gambling behaviours and trying to understand those. But many of these international gambling firms that are promoting things like blackjack, roulette, bingo, you can bet quite large sums very, very quickly, and there aren't necessarily so many guardrails and handrails. You can have sort of place guidelines on yourself as to I only want to bet £1,000 or
yeah, and that feels like that should first principles. That's where you should go.
But you're educated at schools or particularly young men.
Doesn't it illustrate what gambling does to something in your brain?
Yeah.
Because obviously, if you were in your right mind completely, an alarm bell would ring and you'd think, I've already bet £10,000 today, I can't do that.
Yes, but then you get into a whole of, if I just have another bet, I'll correct that. So that's the actual kind of...
And that's the grip. That's the extraordinary grip of gambling on your brain.
You touched on something really important there, where the gambling companies have looked at the behaviours that you use on smartphones and mimic those for gambling, and they play back into each other. The reward impulses in your brain are matched by you receiving sort of flashing lights and win things on your phone. Yeah. And also, even when I gamble sports betting, and I get... If I bet on a Saturday afternoon, all Sunday I'll get texts from betting companies, another free bet, have another free bet, bet more, bet more. And it's very often not even betting companies that I've used. Yeah. And so even me, as who I think is quite a sensible gambler, you get deluged with so much product. It's so easy to bet. If you're trying to give up alcohol or cigarettes, that's very difficult. But you can get away from places where they serve alcohol or cigarettes. On your phone, it follows you everywhere.
But shopping does it.
How far into debt can you go there? Because you're not allowed to link your credit card. You can only have a debit card linked to these sort of things.
Yeah, quite. But you could get 9 or 10 different debit cards, can't you? All with overdrafts. You can get into a huge amount of personal
if you're in that hole, you'll very quickly find ways around it. You're right.
And with digital technology, you can get a debit card online and then almost have a new debit card almost straight away, and new accounts and new lines of finance.
Well, the minute you've got one, you get offered others as well. It's like having cookies follow you on your computer. The minute you've bought a couple of things, suddenly your computer screen is flooded with...
Sometimes I find quite handy. Oh, I've forgotten I wanted that, yes. But you do also have to be able to have the willpower to say, no, I mustn't buy that as well.
But problem gamblers, their information is swapped between gambling companies or gambling partners at the same house, same partnership. And so they can know that you are susceptible to placing lots of bets, and you can be offered more and more.
Right, we've got 1 minute, Susan. Okay. Tell us about the BBC's mistake.
So the BBC seem to have let slip what our Eurovision entry might be in the Eurovision Song Contest, if you are wondering who it might be. And what I was interested in is it's a trio called Remember Monday, who have actually appeared on The Voice. And what's interesting is they're a country act. And I think this might be a good idea, because we was it Neil Point last time with the Years and Years guy.
So you think a bit of country music.
I think a bit of country music is the way to go. I'm a big country fan. Beyonce just won country album with Cowboy Carter. Dolly Parton never goes out of fashion. If we're going to do our own homegrown country, I think that might be a good way to play it for Eurovision.
What do you reckon, Andy?
Don't disagree. I mean, Taylor Swift's obviously got a country music heritage. I think we're moving back towards songs that have got a bit of a story behind them, songs that are uplifting, songs where country stars can sing and play an instrument. Too much of the music now is about how much money people have got, how much sex they get. It's immediate and it's nonsense. I think people like...
OK, thank you so much for coming in. It's been an absolute pleasure. It really has. But let's find out something that probably won't be much of a pleasure. Here's Jonathan Vaughtry with the weather.
A chilly start will give way to a lovely, warm afternoon. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, very good evening to you. This is your GB News weather updates provided by the Met Office. The cloud that we've had around throughout Saturday is going to be staying with us into Sunday as well, particularly across central areas of the UK, Northern Ireland, into parts of England and Wales. We'll continue to see outbreaks of rain and drizzle this evening and overnight. For the far north and south, though, we will start to see some clearer spells emerging, and underneath those clear skies, temperatures will drop off quite a touch, as low as -7 degrees Celsius for some rural parts of Scotland. This will be accompanied by some freezing fog patches, maybe also some icy stretches where surfaces are still wet, particularly if left untreated. Despite the very cold start to the day in Scotland, though, it is going to be a very sunny one here once the fog does eventually clear its way off, and we'll hold on to the sunshine right throughout the day. For Northern Ireland, then, into those central areas of England and Wales, it's going to be dull, drab and dreary, unfortunately. Further outbreaks of drizzle to contend with. But for the far south of England, we're starting the day off with something a touch brighter here. The cloud will tend to build from the east throughout the day, so we're going to be left with the fringes of parts of Pembrokeshire, West Wales and down towards Cornwall and the Isles of Scilly that will hold on to the sunshine the longest, whereas further rain pushes into southeastern England later on. with the cloud around, it is going to be another rather cold day, particularly once you factor in the easterly wind that's going to start building once again. So it's going to be feeling colder than these temperatures necessarily show on the chart. And that easterly wind is something that will hold on into the new working week as well. High pressure stays in control across Scandinavia, allowing that easterly wind to push its way in, and that is going to add a wind chill factor on top of the already cold conditions. Further showers pushing in from the North Sea with an extensive area of cloud. Those showers will be wintry over higher ground areas as well. It's a scenario that we're going to have to get used to because it is expected to stay very similar throughout the forthcoming week. Cloudy for the vast majority of us, and temperatures still slightly below average for the time of year. Bye-bye. Enjoy your evening.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Don't miss your chance to be one of 2 big winners in our latest Great British giveaway, as we have 2 prize bundles that have to be won. First, you'll win a totally tax-free £10,000 in cash to spend however you like. You'll also receive the very latest iPhone 16, and we'll send you on a shopping spree with £500 to spend in your favourite store. For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB11 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 7th of March. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Lisa, you got in touch with me and you flagged this survey because you were concerned as a parent that your child had been given this to fill out.
Yeah, I mean, my daughter came home from school, she was very confused. She was asking why somebody would want to hurt themselves if they were feeling sad or worried about something. So that led to a conversation that we had, and I actually phoned the school and asked them to send me the survey, which with a lot of pushing, they eventually did send me the survey. And when I read through it, I was just completely shocked at the content. The survey says when I'm feeling worried that maybe I should try cutting or harming myself, because it's in the survey, so that must be an option. I've tried everything else, so why not try this?
It is astonishing that some of these are young children who are perhaps being introduced to these, these abuses for the first time.
Yeah, I mean, there's a list of 17 different types of drugs, some of which I've actually never heard of myself. I mean, the wording on here is, have you ever got high from taking drugs? I mean...
And we know that some of these behaviours, self-harm, gender dysphoria, taking drugs, are psychologically contagious. Children do them because they see other children do them, or they find out about them from the internet or from surveys like this. So the idea that this is just information gathering and won't go any further than that is ridiculous. There was a similar survey in Scotland, I think, about 3 years ago, where children the same age, 11, 12, 13, were asked about their sex lives. How many times have you had sex in the last year? How did you have sex? Did you use contraception? Totally normalising underage sex. So the idea that children are just mini adults and we can confront them with all the same kind of ideas and dilemmas that adults have to face is just ridiculous.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good morning, happy Sunday. A Labour minister has got the sack.
Yeah, Andrew Gwynne, the MP for Gorton and Denton. Sorry, let's try that again. Alleged to have wished death on a non-Labour voter.
Yeah, as well as mocking Jewish names and female MPs.
So, 7 months into this government and the scandals just keep coming. Who could be next?
May they rest in peace, a heartbreaking tribute to the little girls who lost their lives in the Southport attack as their families speak out.
And Captain Tom's daughter, Hannah Ingram Moore, sits down with Nana Okoye in an exclusive interview.
There's a name that was picked up because it was too salacious not to, I think. A swim spa, Google it. That's the brand name. It's great. They're great little pools, but it's basically a hot tub at one end.
Now, I don't know what you're planning for Sunday lunch, but look at this. It's National Pizza Day, and we are going to celebrate in the only way you can, by eating some.
There are some glimmers of sunshine amongst the cloud today. Join me later to find out if you're likely to see any of them.
Well, it's just gone 9 o'clock. I'm Anne Diamond.
And I'm Adam Cherry. This is GB News Breakfast.
I wish I had, or I'd made my sons, do a holiday job learning how to make pizza. You know,
would have been handy, wouldn't it?
To twirl it and do it the proper way, you know, to go and work in a pizza restaurant and learn how to do the things properly. I think that would be a tremendous...
Can't be easy to balance it like a basketball on your finger. Yeah, I'd be rubbish at it.
I love those restaurants you go to where you see them doing that as well.
And you put it in the stone in the oven and you cook right in front of you.
The best way to cook and eat pizza is that's quite something.
You get that sort of smoky, charcoaly burn.
Instead, my son's probably like, I mean, everybody now, particularly of a younger generation, they just order everything online and it comes within 5 minutes to your front door.
Yeah, I did that last night, I have to admit. But I felt guilty about it, so that's half the story. I'm almost there.
Politics, absolutely. Now, we've got a lot of politics to talk about today. In fact, the Prime Minister has acted really quickly, actually, because he sacked one of his health ministers, that's Andrew Gwynne, and it's because of allegations that he made offensive comments in a WhatsApp group. It's a Mail on Sunday exclusive today.
Yeah.
When the Mail on Sunday told Keir Starmer's office about it, he did seem to act very quickly.
Yeah, I mean, he was gone before the story had even hit the presses. So he's been suspended as a member of the Labour Party and has since apologised for what he calls, quote, misjudged comments, which is putting it mildly, I think.
Yeah, and according to the Mail on Sunday, which actually prints out some of the things he said on WhatsApp, he is reported to have made a litany of offensive comments.
Yeah, this included anti-Semitic remarks, as well as saying he hoped a non-Labour voting pensioner would die before the next general election.
It's also alleged that he attacked members of his own party, which is really embarrassing, but also absolutely hateful. He said some really racist things about the Labour MP Diane Abbott, Mother of the House, and sexist comments about the Deputy Prime Minister, Angela Rayner.
Well, let's get the thoughts of GB News presenter Camilla Tominey, who joins us live from Westminster ahead of her show. Camilla, this is a bit of a mess, isn't it? Where do the Labour Party go from here? It's the fourth big resignation in just over 7 months.
I know, it just adds insult to injury, doesn't it, for Keir Starmer's fledgling administration. And I think the wider issue is the fact that although they have dealt with Gwynne sort of partially because he's been sacked from his post in government and he's had the whip suspended, questions will now be posed about whether he should be in Parliament at all. I'll certainly be posing those questions to the Labour Minister coming on, a Housing Minister, Matthew Pennycook, in just a little while. But also, when you look at the other people in the groups, I mean, this was a Labour WhatsApp group with councillors in it. It's got another Labour MP in it. As you said there, Adam, detailing some of the remarks that were made, we've got a litany of, quite frankly, disgusting comments, anti-Semitism, racism, sexism, derogatory comments made about the likes of Angela Rayner. And you have to ask yourself, well, sorry, why does this culture exist within some aspects of the Labour Party? Why did the Labour MP in question not call this out? What's going to happen to this as yet unnamed Labour MP? And why are people who are either in the party or indeed in government even having these thoughts? You know, the idea that a pensioner that doesn't vote for you, that an actual elected representative jokes that they hope they die by the next general election, this is just not the behaviour befitting of people in high office.
And what worries most people, I guess, is the fact that obviously it's highly irresponsible and deeply offensive, but that somebody like a minister still thinks that being part of a WhatsApp group is safe and won't get leaked, and therefore they can say what the heck they like.
Yeah, I mean, we were just discussing it, actually, before I came in here to do this item, this idea that ministers and MPs are so stupid that they don't think that eventually all of these messages will come back to haunt them. But also just behave appropriately. Speak appropriately because you are an elected representative of the United Kingdom. And we've seen it before, haven't we? I mean, think back to the lockdown files, everything that Matt Hancock and others wrote on WhatsApp, this idea of governance by WhatsApp. They've got to be very careful. So I'll be speaking to Matthew Pennycook about that and other issues, you know, the Bank of England downgrading our growth rate. Somebody else who can comment on that later is Sir Rocco Forte, the hotelier. He's going to say how small and medium-sized businesses have been bashed by Rachel Reeves's budget. I'm also going to be speaking to Catherine Birbalsingh about her ongoing row with Bridget Phillipson, the Education Secretary. Birbalsingh, as most viewers and listeners will know, is known as Britain's strictest headmistress, also one of Britain's most successful, turned around the fortunes of the Michaela Academy in Wembley. They now get as good GCSE results as Eton, and of course it's a state school in a deprived area. So I'm going to drill a little bit further into that row, because Labour sources are still briefing against Birbalsingh, and I find that confusing. Why does the Education Secretary want to pit herself against a woman who has been a bastion of educational excellence? It's bizarre. I'm also going to be speaking to Andrea Jenkins about this rumours of a reform mega pact between Nigel Farage and our old friend Boris Johnson. Who would have thought it?
I know. Now, isn't that interesting? It'll be fascinating to see what she says or what she knows about that. But frankly, the way politics is going at the moment, almost anything seems to be possible.
Anything possible. And actually, Andrea would know, because she knows both Nigel Farage and Boris Johnson very well. Also got the Tory Alex Burkhardt on. He's Kemi Badenoch's right-hand man. Let's see what he thinks, how well she thinks she's been doing, because there's been quite a lot of criticism of the opposition leader's performance at Prime Minister's questions.
Fascinating programme. Really interesting time to talk to all those people, Camilla. Thanks very much indeed. We'll see you in just a few moments.
Boris and Nigel, I mean, that's...
Well, that will get people excited, you know. It really will.
But that's a battle of egos, isn't it? I mean, would one ever step back in favour of the other? They both want the top job.
Who would come out top? I don't know. How do you settle that? OK, we've been talking about our poll of the day because earlier we were asking, should Prince Harry return to the UK? I think that must be like the 5 millionth time we've actually asked it. But interesting to see if it's changed. So far, just 7% of you want him to return. 93% had enough. Don't want to see him anymore. But the final result, it could change. It'll be announced later in Nana Akwia's show, and you know how to find out all about the voting and how to do it.
What a shock that would be if it did actually change. But go to gbnews.com/poll, let your view be known. If you have a different opinion, you can try and swing the vote, but it doesn't look like that's going to be likely. Anyway, Captain Tom's daughter, Hannah Ingram Moore, has sat down with Nana Akua for an exclusive interview to address findings that their family repeatedly benefited from a charity created in his name.
Should we take a quick peek at what to expect?
This is his living room. He moved in here with us in 2007. He said he got the best rooms in the house. He was quite strict as a father. He was still fun, but it was more about equipping us with tools for life. So I could wire plugs, I could put extension leads together, I could service a car. He instilled those life skills. And he said, you're girls, you have every right to understand how to do all of these things. So by the time he moved in here at 87, he was now directly teaching his grandchildren, which I don't think he ever expected to do.
Now, he served in the Second World War.
Yes.
What did he do in the war? What was his role?
Well, he went into the army at the age of 20 and served from 1939 to 1946. I think that for the most part, take away the horror, he absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
Well, he had been looking after my mother, who had been dying from degenerative brain disorder. And he cared for her as long as he could at home. And then she had to go into a home, and then he went there every single day until she died.
And there's some pictures of him. I mean, I absolutely love this one because of the reaction on your face. Was this when he was offered the knighthood?
He'd just been knighted by the Queen here, and she was truly magnificent. I think if he died that afternoon, he would have been happy. This was the pinnacle of life for him, to be knighted by the Queen, to meet her. And yeah, it was the best moment of his life.
there's this wonderful album here with lots of different, some of the messages and things that you received. Can you talk to me about some of these?
Yes, well, we tried to collate things because remember things were coming, letters and letters and letters, and we wanted to keep them. These things were in the memorial building for people to come and share. All of the letters that were sent from everyone here and around the world. Just what a wonderful thing to have.
This is quite incredible. And there's his
knighthood
that he collected as well.
And also here, these are some of the 225,000 cards.
Just
there are
some,
many of these boxes.
Well, GB News presenter Nana Akua joins us now. Nana, what was your impression of Hannah Ingram Moore there? Is she remorseful? Does she regret how things have transpired since 2020?
Remorseful. Remorseful is an interesting word. For what? That's the thing. Look, what it is there are so many documentaries about you without you. And if you watch, you'll see that a lot of the documentaries about the Ingram Moores don't actually feature them saying anything at all. It's all a perception or a conversation from the press, or somebody else has reported something or something. So I wanted to get the story from her perspective, because every time you ever see her being interviewed, it's always a gotcha. Let's splash this out and tell everybody how bad you are and evil you are. Well, actually, I just thought, what is the story? What is the story from her point of view? And obviously, what is it that the Charity Commission have said about the issues with the spa? Was it really a spa? I mean, Adam, have you ever heard an actual explanation without interruption from her perspective about what happened with the spa and how it even became known as the spa?
No, I'd be interested to hear from her perspective. I think what you've done here is valuable journalism, actually.
Why did she agree to do the interview?
Yeah.
What did she want to do? I mean, was it to clear her name or what?
Not really. It was more to change, hopefully to change public perception, of her, perception of her. And it's because you hear a lot of one side of the story. The Charity Commission are a very powerful organisation. The media are all very powerful. What they say, a lot of people will instantly believe without challenge, or if there's challenge, you've already set the image of something negative. So she agreed to do it, to be allowed to speak, so you could hear from her perspective and then make your own opinion as to whether you think that some have called her Cruella de Vil and things like that. I think the bottom line is they raised £38.9 million. £38.9 million. That is incredible, right? None of us have raised anything like that. So obviously Captain Tom did the walk, but Hannah and Colin, her husband, were the brains behind why and how this money became raised. So I felt that there's a story to be told. There are two sides to every story. And I felt that one side had constantly been pushed and told. And I wanted to hear from Hannah herself. And she also wanted to give her side of the story and leave the viewer to make their own decision.
Does she accept that she got things wrong?
Absolutely, she got things wrong. We all get things wrong, especially if you're chucked into a world that you don't really know and have never really understood. Yes, she accepts mistakes were made. We all make mistakes.
What was your impression when you left that interview? What did you think of her personally?
Well, I think you should actually watch the documentary at 5 o'clock today and then see what you think, because it's, again, I'm not going to push my perception of who she is and what I thought onto you. I'd rather you watched it and then make a decision on your own. And then after you've seen it, then I'll let you know what I think, because I don't want to sway the narrative in any way.
I think a lot of our viewers, and you will have come across this yourself, are pretty harsh about her. They feel that she's sullied her father's reputation, or memory, at least. Do you think there is anything in that? Does she feel a sense of guilt about that?
I think if you, again, look at it from the perspective of a father and a daughter, I don't think, for the love that they've shown to their father, who they took in after the mother died of dementia, he spent every day literally looking after her and caring for her. And Hannah and the family couldn't leave him on his own. And they said, look, come and live with us. And apparently that's one of the best things he ever did. And he was overjoyed. So if you imagine it from that perspective, I don't think that any daughter would want to do that to their father.
No,
So-
she wouldn't want to. It's whether she did sort of accidentally or not. I don't know. Anyway, as you say, the way to judge is to watch it ourselves. And it's at 5 o'clock this evening, or late afternoon.
That's right.
OK. Nana, thanks very much indeed. Nice of you to join us.
Interesting. She wants the viewers to have their own perspective on this. And then afterwards, maybe she'll chat about how she feels about it. Interesting. So, as you say, 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
We'll get to see the full interview with Hannah in Gwynne.
OK, right. Let's do our Great British giveaway now. As you probably know by now, we've got the chance for 2 winners. 2 prize bundles containing £500 worth of shopping vouchers for your favourite store, the latest iPhone 16 and 10 grand in tax-free cash. Here's how to take part.
Don't miss your chance to be one of 2 big winners in our latest Great British giveaway, as we have 2 prize bundles that have to be won. First, you'll win a totally tax-free £10,000 in cash to spend however you like. You'll also receive the very latest iPhone 16, and we'll send you on a shopping spree with £500 to spend in your favourite store. For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB11 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 7th of March. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Well, still to come, it is National Pizza Day today. We are celebrating in the only proper way. We're going to eat some pizza, and it's good because I'm actually very hungry. I don't think I hear my stomach going.
Oh, well, here's a question to consider as we take a break. Where was Hawaiian pizza invented? Where was Hawaiian pizza invented? Back with you in a couple of moments.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point.
He's lying. Maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Lee Anderson's Real World, Fridays from 7 p.m.
That's football.
Well,
you know, it's the hope that kills you.
It does. It gives you highs, it gives you lows. I mean, if you're an Everton fan at the moment, you probably had far too many lows. But as you know, I'm a Nottingham Forest fan.
Well, you must be having a huge high.
But you had one of the greatest footballers ever to grace the game, right? And that was Dixie Dean.
Yeah, absolutely. William Ralph Dean. Didn't like being called Dixie, but that was his nickname. And he was born in 1907. He was my grandfather's best mate. I'm an Everton shareholder. I've been, attached to the club all my life, and so was my father, so was my grandfather, our greatest ever player.
So back in the day when players like Dixie Dean were playing football for big crowds in, a proper...
72,000.
Yeah, a proper working class sport back in the day, weren't it, football? Not like it is today. You've got to be pretty wealthy to afford a ticket.
Even in the 70s, right, and I've seen some, I do like looking back on the football that I watched as a kid. Even in the 70s now, I've seen pictures of the turnstiles, as we used to call them, with a sign at the top, 5 shillings for the Eastern Terrace. 5 shillings. Yeah. Last time I turned down a ticket to go to a football match was Arsenal, who wanted me to pay £830 for a seat in an executive lounge. And though I could have afforded it, because I've worked all my life like you, I just thought at that point, that's ridiculous.
Well, you should have told him you were Keir Starmer's security man. You'd have probably got him for nothing.
Well, that's a good idea. Yeah.
But you go back to the the 1930s and 1940s, even the 1960s and 70s. The footballers would walk to the ground and play a game, and then walk back and go for a few beers in the pub.
GB News, the People's Channel.
the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Right, we're talking about pizza this morning. Sorry, we couldn't wait.
We've already
Somebody
stuck in.
puts down a plate of pizza, you just have to have a go at it straight
Yeah.
away, don't you? But I was asking you if you know where Hawaiian pizza was invented.
Now, I thought, is this some sort of trick question where it actually is just Hawaii? But
no, it's not.
It's not.
Back in the mid-50s, the term Hawaiian was used to describe pizzas topped with fruit, like pineapple, for instance. But apparently, the Hawaiian pizza was actually invented in Canada.
Ah, there you go.
OK.
Canada.
Well, the person who will know the answer to that and many more questions is with us now. Italian-British pizza entrepreneur Mario Aleppo joins us now. Thank you so much. These are your pizzas.
They are indeed.
We've got to slip them.
Yeah, I've demolished one slice already.
Even one which is only just not very hot at all is delicious. Actually, what is it about pizza? Because even when it's gone cold, it's still delish, isn't it?
It is. A lot of people enjoy it the next day. Surprisingly, I haven't tried it myself, but yeah, from the feedback that we've had, it's quite nice the day after.
Tell us about your business. First of all, start talking about the business, but then also what makes the perfect pizza.
Yeah, so we started Faraway Pizza about 7 years ago. With one shop in South London, and we've grown it to 157 shops in the UK.
Wow!
And a few abroad as well. So
OK, what's the secret of growing a business that makes pizza work that fast and furious?
I think pizza's a simple product. It doesn't need to be complicated, but obviously it needs to be good quality. So we use products from Italy for the base and keep it simple.
Yeah. Absolutely, and it clearly works. People, I mean, there are some disgusting pizzas around, aren't there?
I've tried.
So obviously, if you're doing the biz, you are it grows fast, and that's why. Do you still? Well, you can't if you're making that many. You don't roll them out, do you?
No, they're made by hand. Yeah,
they are made by hand.
Yeah,
do you do the twirling thing?
Some of the chefs do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can you do it?
Kind of.
So where do you originally come from, or have you always been a Brit?
Yeah, I've been a Brit. My grandma came over from Naples in Italy, the Amalfi Coast.
Now that's meant to be the birthplace of the pizza.
Yeah.
So would she cook a pizza?
Yeah, at home, pizza, pasta. I think food is quite a traditional thing in Italian
So is that where
culture.
you learned how to do the best sort of pizza?
I'm not the best at making pizzas, but we got some good chefs.
Yes, 183 at least.
Yeah.
What's your favourite topping on a pizza?
I think just simple margherita pizza. That's how you can tell like the quality of a pizza without throwing too many things on top. So yeah, keep it simple.
It is amazing what things people will put on top of the pizza. But thank you very much, because we're hungry by now, and we'll probably demolish these. It's lovely to talk to you. Have a wonderful pizza day.
Thank you.
National Pizza Day. Right now, though, or just up to us to say thank you very much for being with us. Camilla Tominey is next, and now the weather.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, very good morning to you. This is your GB News weather update provided by the Met Office. There are some glimmers of sunshine around first thing today, but for many it is still rather cloudy, all due to the easterly wind that is setting itself back up, filtering in quite a lot of moisture from the North Sea, and that's providing quite extensive cloud cover, particularly across eastern areas where we will see outbreaks of rain and drizzle at times. Generally, though, if you're further towards the west, you've got a greater chance of seeing some sunshine today, particularly for northwestern Scotland. It's going to be another fine, lovely day here. Western areas of Wales, down towards Devon and Cornwall, the Scilly Isles should also see some sunshine at points today. But that easterly wind is going to continue to feed in that cloud, and so sunshine will become increasingly limited later on in the day, and we'll see some longer spells of rain arriving into southeastern England later on as well. Temperatures on the thermometer will be around 6 to 8 degrees Celsius, but again, we've got to factor in that easterly wind that is going to make it feel colder than these temperatures will show on the chart. Across northwestern Scotland, where we do hold on to the sunshine, certainly it will be a nice fine end to the day, but underneath the clear skies that hold on tonight, it is going to turn quite chilly. Again, there will be some frost around, maybe some freezing fog patches as well. And elsewhere, where temperatures do get close towards freezing, there could be some very localised icy stretches where surfaces remain wet and untreated. But for most of our towns and cities, temperatures will be around 3 to 4 degrees Celsius. As we start off this new working week, then, it is going to be a fairly dull, damp, dreary one, unfortunately. Again, a lot of extensive cloud cover right across the board, continuing to see some showers push their way in from the east. They'll be wintry over higher ground as well. It's always going to be western sides of things that will see the best of the sunshine. Again, northwestern Scotland probably seeing the best day out of everywhere. Temperatures really struggling though, 4 to 6 degrees Celsius. Again, we've got to factor in the strength of the wind, so it's probably going to feel closer towards freezing, and that is going to continue right throughout the forthcoming week. Bye-bye.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Now, after moving to the UK from Kochi in Japan over 25 years ago, our next guest missed the taste of home and started making sushi with